It says I'm live. Let's find out if my sound is working here. All I have to go on is it says you're live. If you can hear me, just say we can hear you. I know I'm about 4 minutes early, but why not start early? You can hear me. Great. So we'll give it another 4 minutes or so. We'll let more people show up, and then I will start to answer the questions. In the meantime, I'll scan your questions here. Anything that's not CFA related, I guess I can answer. All of these are CFA related. So let's just give it a few more minutes. We got 3 more minutes before 6 o'clock. Gives me time to see where futures might be opening tonight. I don't know what to expect. So, not that it matters anymore. I mean, where futures open on Sunday night has very little resemblance with what actually happens during, on Monday opening. And it looks like it's setting up to open down about 6 points. Nothing to read into that. Let's see if we have any other questions here. Where is Chekhov's cello? You mean Tchaikovsky's cello? I'm having work done in the house. So during the course of the week, the doors are coming back. You'll notice the doors are gone. They're being replaced with cherry wood doors. That door that you see over there, the entrance door, that's all being torn out. And a wider door is being put there, kind of like an old castle type looking door is being put there. All the bathrooms are being ripped apart right down to the studs and being rebuilt. So everything just got painted. So everything has to be rehung again, and I'm not hanging anything until I have a custom desk being made. This one is leaving, the new one's coming in here. And then I'll determine what art looks appropriate in this room. I don't know if I'll put Tchaikovsky back there or if Tchaikovsky will go into one of the guest bedrooms. I haven't decided yet, but I'm on hold until the work is done. So everything is just laying against a wall in different places. So, all right, we have 6 o'clock. I'm going to go through the comment section and answer them as they're posted. And hopefully I can keep up with the questions, and we'll try to stay on till the questions are answered. I took level 2 exam 4 years ago. So if you're trying to keep up, you could just scroll up in the comments. I took the level 2 exam 4 years ago. So would you advise to revise a level 2 material before starting prep for L3? No, because there's a lot in level 2 that simply just ends there. For example, FRA simply ends at level 2. And I don't think there's anything in level 3 that is a callback to level 2 FRA. Same with corporate finance. I don't think there's any callbacks. There are some callbacks in the sense that you would have to know some foundational stuff for level 3. But if you go to our site and just follow the link that I posted, markmeldrum.com, click on CFA, click on level 3. And if you scroll down to the bottom in orange printing under the price grids, it says, see how level 3 references the previous levels. And you'll get a grid up and look at level 3. And there are review readings that you can do at level 1 and at level 2 that reference level 3 that you're just expected to know. A lot of times I suggest you review opportunistically, meaning that don't bother reviewing, don't bother with a formal review, simply start level 3. And if you say, I've forgotten most of this, well, there's the opportunity to review. But as you're going through level 3, you might say, oh, it's all coming back to me. I remember this. I remember that. Well, then there you go. You didn't need to review that. So if you review opportunistically, you minimize how much stuff you do have to review. But if you want to see what in level 1 and level 2 are critical to know, then I would look at that. If question asks 2 reasons and you put 3, you're wasting your time. I can tell you right now, you're wasting your time. First one is incorrect. Last 2 are correct. They'll grade the first one and the second one and ignore the third. That is called a gunshot answer. Even in university, gunshot answers are not accepted. So a gunshot answer throws everything at the screen or throws everything at the paper and says, I'm bound to say the right things if I say everything. So if I say list the vowels of the alphabet and you just list the whole alphabet and then come back and make the argument that there's the A, there's the I, the O, and the U. Yeah, but you gave me a gunshot answer. You gave me everything. So I don't know that you know the difference. So if you list 3, I don't know that you know which ones are right. So I don't know. I think you're just throwing anything at me, hoping something sticks. No, they will cross out the third one. You're simply wasting your time. There is no hope on this one. It's not as if, well, I'll put a third one down and maybe, just maybe. There is no maybe, just maybe. It is simply crossed out. You're purely wasting your time. That's all. I saw your last video about results. 2 friends of mine who got approved in first attempt at level 1, level 2, failed level 3. Well, did not pass level 3. What are your tips? When should we start practicing structured response questions? Well, all the end of chapter questions have structured response questions. So I don't think that there's any time that you should start. A structured response is just that. There is a structure to the response, and it must be possible that everybody gets the same answer. You can't have hundreds of different answers. So they're not opinion questions. They do have a very specific answer and a very specific structure. So we know they're not essay questions. Right away, they're not essay questions. For everybody, to be possible for everybody to get the right answer, it must be 1 or 2 bullet points. So the way you practice structured response is you get very good at explaining the concepts in 1 or 2 sentences, 1 or 2 bullet points. So if somebody says, well, what is a curve flattener trade? 2 bullet points. Get used to answering everything in 2 bullet points. That's how you practice. Now, while it must be 100% possible for everybody to get the same answer, it is almost impossible for everyone to use the same words. The grader's not grading your words. Don't second guess yourself on the words you use. It is not the words you say, it is the message you convey. The grader's grading your message, not your words. Okay? DNP May 2022, not close. Then DNP February 2023, touching MPS, very close. Is additional 300 hours of study. Okay, get that out of your head about how many hours. Just ignore time, ignore a quantity, okay? It's quality, it's not quantity. I've never been a fan of how many hours should I study. And my answer is always, it takes what it takes. Simple as that. How long will it take me to learn this reading? It takes what it takes. Somebody may take 2 hours, somebody may take 4, somebody else may take 12. It takes what it takes to get to the point where you say, I got it. It's not a matter of, well, I'm 3 hours in. Okay, I've done this reading, 3 hours of reading. I'm done. Great. The clock says I'm done. No, yeah. Your brain says you're done. And after 3 hours, if your brain is still saying, 12 pages left in this reading, this is fuzzy, then you're not done. It takes what it takes. Get the time, get the number, stop counting on that sense. Better off targeting weak areas, economics, fixed income, and just review the rest. Yeah, I think that's what you go for is you target your weak areas, most definitely, but stop counting. Okay, because counting is just going to make you frustrated. Go for quality. Slow down and just go for quality. Never mind quantity. When do you foresee the 2024 curriculum will get out? May 16th, 23 days. And how much change do you foresee? Well, that's a good one. I know exactly how much change there is because, of course, I get the content early because I have to prepare. I know exactly how much change there is. I can't share it with you, though. That's the thing. I can't share it with you. However, you can use some logic here. They've announced that there are significant changes coming for 2025. If you were CFAI, and you had significant changes coming for 2025, you have the 2024 content coming out. How much money are you going to spend on significant changes in 2024 if 2025 is going to be all brand new? So you can use some logic, and you can go from there. I can't share anything with you until May 16th. That's the limitation that we have. We get to peek behind the curtain, but then we got to be absolutely silent about what we see behind that curtain. 2024 packages released May 16th. And when I say they're released on May 16th, CFAI will allow you to register for February on May 16th, but no further dates, just February. When you're on our site, you can select the exam date you want for the year. So if you know you're going to be doing the August level 3, you can select August. We're not going to make a distinction between that, because no matter what day you pick in 2024, I said 2023 earlier, I meant 2024. No matter what day you pick in 2024, it's the same content. So it's not like we're doing anything we can't do. We're just allowing you to pick August if you think your exam is in August. But if your exam is in February, and you think, well, I'll pick August just in case I fail, I'll have it all the way to August. Well, then you don't get the mock exams. If you select August, mock exams turn on June 15th. So you give that up. Not only that, we have 1 fee to pass. So there's no point in buying insurance. The insurance is already wrapped up in the price. It's already there. So if you're going to write in February, take February. You get the mock exams December 15th, and you can attend all of the office hour sessions and all of the drop-in sessions before your exam. And if you get a DNP, well, then we extend your subscription to August anyways. So you're not gaining anything by saying, I think I'll pick August, and even though I'm writing in February, just in case. The insurance is already in the subscription. What else we got here? Is a bachelor's degree in finance required to get hired for a first job in finance, or is passing the CFA Level 2 exam sufficient? Well, no. An undergrad in finance is not a requirement. Now, some places may have an undergrad degree in finance as a requirement. But generally, no, it's not a requirement. You don't need to have that. And having a level 2 is not sufficient to get a job. It's useful. It's helpful. It may get you in a room more than somebody who may not have it, but you still have to land the job. You still have to be impressive enough that I want to throw money at you. You have to tell me what you have to offer me, because I, as the employer, know what I have to offer you. What do you have to offer me? So I would say that the degree in finance is not required, and a level 2 is not sufficient. It's not necessary that you have the level 2, but in having it, it doesn't automatically get you in the room or get you a job just because you have it. These are all things that build your resume, that make me, as I'm looking through them, say, okay, yes, yes, no, 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 yes, yes. And then I have my yes pile from all of them. The yes pile is smaller. Then we think about who we interview from there. You'll make the first cut. It probably will help you make the first cut. But then, after that, your resume is wrapped up inside this personality that's you, and you got to show up in that room, right? What's your favorite pastime while not analyzing all markets ever? My favorite pastime? I don't know that I have a favorite pastime. I like poetry, but when I do that, I don't read poetry. I sort of live with it for weeks. One poem for weeks. If it's a good poem, I'll stay with it for a month, and I'll just keep revisiting it and reading it with different interpretations or different ways. And if there's nothing in it for me, if I'm pulling out no meaning out of it, if there's no new interpretation of things, then I sort of just leave it. But I like those intellectual pursuits where it's, you versus the words on the page, and how many different interpretations are there? What can you see? What connections can you make that otherwise you may not have seen on just reading it quickly? I like doing that. I don't know that I have any other favorite pastimes in that sense. Um, I have a gym in my basement. I spend an hour and a half down there every day. Um, but I don't consider that a pastime. I consider that more of a part of my schedule. That's a good question. It may make me sound boring. I don't really have a pastime in that sense. Any way to prepare for level 3 before enrolling for it? Yeah, you like I say, if you look at what readings at level 1 and level 2 reference level 3, you can start preparing for that kind of thing. Also, just being aware of where markets are, listening to other analysts, reading analyst reports. There's lots online that you can get. They don't have to be current. Just looking at the structure of them. Lots you can do in that sense. That sort of brings you closer to the real world. But as far as the real content itself, the level 3 books are sold on Amazon, so you can buy all of level 3, I think, for like 200 and some odd dollars. So you can get those without registering for the exam. If you need to get the content early, it will cost you a little bit more, but you've got the books now, and you can begin with that. And then when you're ready, you can register. You can find older books online. Now, you do run the risk that the curriculum has changed from 2023 to 2020. We know it's changing in 2025. So you'd be out of date if you have 2023 books for 2025. Now, they say that the core 65%, roughly 65% will stay the same, and then you have your streams after that, with one of them being the portfolio management stream, which is the current level 3 right now. I don't know how much that one would be changing. No idea at this point. So a weekly update suggests you're less bearish on the S&P. I don't know that I'm less bearish on the S&P as much as I don't want to be more bearish on the S&P. I'm not less. I just don't want to be more at this point, if that makes any sense. I am more willing to buy certain names, like I mentioned GM, only because it's trading at the lower end of its range, sub 34. And I think that it suffered a lot because of the EV, the negative news on the EV side. But it has a whole ICE division that just generates cash because they have no CapEx on the ICE side. So ICE is just a pure money maker. And I think people are forgetting that, as fast as we think we can move over to battery, it's not going to happen that quickly, because everyone's rushing to get in that space at the same time. You're going to hit a wall of supply in 2025, 2026 in terms of battery material. So these dates of 2030, 2035, no more internal combustion, those are going to have to be pushed out. Those are far too aggressive to transition all to suddenly start, what is it, 65, 70 million cars sold every single year globally, to suddenly by 2035 have that many, all battery, electric, when the mines to produce the material to make it don't even exist today. ICE is going to be around for a long time. So GM at the lower end of the range, I don't mind buying more of that. The miners, I don't mind buying more of that. And you're seeing now a lot of M&A deals from mining companies trying to pick up copper miners. What is the Canadian Gold Company just bought an Australian copper mine for 500 and some odd million, a junior copper miner. So I think there's going to be more consolidation in that sector, only because it takes 7 to 10 years to build out a copper mine. You may as well buy one, right? So I'm not less bearish. I just don't want to be more bearish than what I am. Could you help me with security analysis and portfolio management subject for my master's? Yeah, let me drop everything I'm doing. Come on over. And I don't know what that means. Can I help you with security analysis and portfolio management? Like, what do you, that's a big, broad question. I don't know what your question is. If you're doing a master's and you're asking me to help you, maybe a master's is not the right place for you. You should be doing this on your own, and you should be saying to yourself, I got this. I got this. You shouldn't be asking for help on that. You have a video of what is the sequence to study level 3. Just want to know if you have a sequence for review and consolidation. Not really. The sequence for studying level 3, for level 3, and same with level 1, I always suggest start with quant, because it forms the basis of a lot of things that you're going to see. For level 2, I've always had the idea that you can divide level 2 into 2 halves. There's a hard side and an easy side. There's some hard sections and some easy sections. I've always started with hard things because I have more time. If there are easy things, well, then I'll get them easy. I don't need to knock them out of the way now. I want more time with the hard stuff. If I can get through the hard stuff, well, the easy stuff's going to be nothing. So you can start with the easy stuff or the hard stuff. At level 3, the fixed income section is considered the more challenging section at level 3, followed probably by the economic session, then quant and currency, derivatives and currency. And then you have, little readings here and there, maybe on performance attribution, maybe on manager selection that have, little bits of, questionable stuff that you may not get your head around in the beginning. But fixed income is considered the more challenging. Well, give yourself a lot more time. Start there. If you can get through fixed income, then the other sections, are not that much more, they're not more difficult than that one. But for review and consolidation, no, I don't have a sequence for that. I don't know that there is a logic for why there would be one. If question asked 2 reasons, I already answered that. I saw your last video about results, so I already answered that. Do you insist on spelling the word foreign incorrectly? I have a problem with that word. I know. I hired somebody new and I was writing out the word, and I mentioned to her at the same time, I said, I don't know why, but for some reason, every time I write out the word foreign, I spell it incorrectly. You know what else I have trouble with? Words that have double letters, like 2 T's, 2 S's. I never get them right. I have to think it through in my head. I don't know why. Everyone has mental blocks, right? I think great in numbers, but when it comes to words, I am consistent in that I spell it wrong a lot. I do have to stop and think it through. Pre-market during weekend, NDX spike to 13. Someone put a big order there that created the spike. Do you look in the pre-market movements? Pre-market before the market opens? I think pre-market, once you start getting to about 7:30 on the US session, and Americans start showing up, you start to get a feeling for what the sentiment is there. I've gone to bed with futures down 45 points, woken up in the morning and we're up 30. Nothing changed overnight, just Americans showed up, and Americans had a different opinion about what was going on in the world, and we're going higher. So there used to be consistency between the sessions, that if you saw what the futures were like going into the evening, you kind of had an idea what the European session would be like. It kind of would hang out for the American session as well. It kind of was in there. Now, flip a coin. So looking at, when I go to bed tonight, I'll look at the futures and just to look to see if there's anything I want to do on Globex. But I won't look at it anticipating that that's what I'll see when I get up. It could be, and it could be something completely different. So I don't know that it matters the night before. But once you start getting to 7:38, I find that the futures start to reflect the sentiment on the opening. The thing is, does it hang out for the opening or does it reverse on the opening? That happens a lot now. So, and then if it reverses, well, how long does it reverse for? It seems like it drops for 17 minutes and everybody gets the memo, and up the right side of the chart we go. Then everybody gets the memo, and down we go. Then everyone gets the memo, and up we go. And I'm thinking, I'm not on the mailing list here. I'm not getting the memo, but it seems like it all turns around on, and you have this intraday volatility now that is just, if you can get the feel of it, you can day trade it quite well. But I don't want to be that. I don't want to spend my day trading this stuff. So it's a frustrating market for sure. Let's see. I've been struggling with the structured response. Sometimes my approach is slightly different from the answer, and I can't tell what there's no. It's the message, right? Just look at the model answer. The model answer is not the words that the grader is looking for. The model answer is a message to the grader saying, here's what the answer is going, here's the message you're looking for in the answer. Read your answer. Do you have the same message? No, you're not going to have the same words. It's impossible to expect 40,000 people over the course of the two exams at level 3, 45,000 people to get all the same words, but the same message should be there. So just ask yourself, am I coming across with the same message? Let's see. Can I finish the whole video lesson before doing QBank, or I have to do questions while watching the video? This is up to you. I know that things are changing at level 1. Starting last year, they started putting some of the readings in modular form, which means 1 or 2, maybe 3 learning objectives per module, as opposed to a reading which has like 11 learning objectives and it's 40 pages long. They're now 2 learning objectives and it might be 15, 20 pages long, with less narrative and more examples. So if you take all the examples out, the content has really shrunk down quite a bit. If you're, on a going forward basis, you'll find more of the readings turning to the modular approach than going through a module. Some of the videos for them are as short as 15 minutes because it's like 2 learning objectives and they're like pretty straightforward. You helped me more than my professor ever did. Well, that's nice to hear. Let's see. Didn't clear level 3. Planning February 2024 as I wasn't prepared. Shall I wait for private? No, don't wait for private markets. No. What curriculum do you expect? Well, final stages of CA, so CFA is secondary. Well, if you want to prioritize CA, if you're trying to get 2 things done at the same time, then that's fine. But if it's a matter of should I wait a whole year for 2025, which will be released next May? No, because they will give you access to it as part of your ability to satisfy your continuing education credits. So you'll have access to it later on. You won't miss anything. So I wouldn't try to game it out in terms of, well, I'm going to take it next year, not this year, just so that I can get this. If it means waiting a year, I wouldn't do that. I did terrible bad in ethics in Feb. You know what? A lot of people did. I've noticed when I see the scores, ethics was low across the board. And I say this when we go through the mock exam walkthroughs, that every year there's one section that's chosen. It seems to be written extremely difficult. And you don't know from year to year which one it's going to be, but one of them is going to be written extremely difficult. It appeared that this year ethics seemed to be the one that was written extremely difficult. And that's to separate the population, right? That's to make sure that not everybody gets above 90, that those who really, really knew it aren't going to be taken down by the difficult section. They'd still be in the top 10%. But it does cause some people, because one section is difficult, to be from maybe they would have passed to, below the pass rate. But that's not uncommon on the exam, that one or two questions will be written purposely difficult on purpose. I did terrible. What exercise would you recommend to mix up with studies and office work to boost productivity? Well, the level of productivity tends to drop off after about 45 minutes. If you're not a professional studier, that's a PhD. PhD is, you're a professional studier. You just do it all day long. So you have to you learn endurance in your first 2 years of a PhD. They throw so much at you, it's impossible to do it all. It's not really meant to be done. It's meant to build your endurance so that you can go 3-4 hours with focus on a particular topic without dropping off on productivity. But unless you've been through that kind of crucible, most people, your productivity in terms of studying will drop off after about 45 minutes. Your most productive time is those first 45 minutes. So if you want to do an hour and a half, it's probably better to break it up into 2 45-minute sessions, and you'll probably have more clarity and maybe get more done than you would in one 1.5 hour session. Certainly, 4 45-minute sessions would be better than a single 3-hour session. So you could think of doing that. At what stage in your career did you become a professor? 40, I guess. I went back at 36 to do a PhD. Yeah, 36. It was right after the dot-com crash. There wasn't much going on, at least in the industry I was in. And I had no opportunity at the time, in the sense that there was nothing really going on that I could take advantage of. I didn't have any idea or any thoughts about doing anything. So I thought, well, let's go hide for a year. You get paid to do a PhD. So I thought, we'll go hide for a year. We'll see what happens, and that was it. But previous to that, I had always been a quite some time, a sessional instructor. That is somebody who has enough practical, real world experience that you teach a course just called a sessional instructor. And all through university, I was either a TA or a GA, depending on, if I was undergrad or graduate, plus a tutor. So you could say that I've always sort of leaned in that side. But, the title itself, I think, was, I was 40, just turned 40. Do you think in the current format of the exam, it is better to do the item set first and only then do constructed response? Well, the reason they mix them, they interleave them like that, is because it was very common, as like at a macro level. Now, you can't talk about each individual, but at the macro level, it was very common that candidates ran out of time on the structured response exam, but had extra time on the item set exam. Well, how do you fix that? How do you apportion more time to the other one? The way you do it is you interleave the questions so that each exam is half and half. So if you're finishing at the macro level now, on average, if you're finishing item sets faster, then you will have more time for the structured response in both sessions. That's the thinking. I don't know that it matters that you do them first or you do them last. I mean, I don't know that it matters. So that's your call. Let's see. What's the best order for practice among your QBank, CFA textbooks, EOCQ, and CFA website questions? Best order for practice. I don't know that there's a best order for practice. If I had to itemize priority as opposed to order, where I would spend more time, I'd spend more time on the examples given within the readings, those long examples. I would spend more time there because it has been said about the level 3 exam for the vignette or the structure response. The structure of the question is often lifted from those questions, not the content, but the structure of the question. In other words, the steps that you would go through to solve something. They say, well, this is a good question setup. Let's just change the context, change the exhibits and the questions, but the setup is pretty good in what it's asking. And so you might recognize some of the structure of the questions from doing those. And those are done well for the most part. They're done well. And then I would probably, at level 3, I would probably say don't skip our office hour sessions. I do them myself. It's open Q&A. Ask me any question. It's each session's on a particular topic, fixed income. Ask me anything. This is the opportunity where if you're confused about anything, you ask me. Each topic has 3 sessions, and even though it lists like it's an hour and a half or 2 hours, I just keep going until the questions are done. So it's not uncommon for the sessions to last 2.5, sometimes 3 hours. And then each of the exams, I do a 2-hour to 3-hour walkthrough of them. And it's not just, here's the answer. It is, look, this question is asking, determine, and justify. Here's how we answer that question setup. Identify. Well, that's a repeat the case fact. All we do is we cut and paste. Well, they don't let you cut and paste, but basically it's a cut and paste. You should be repeating case facts. No more than 4 or 5 words per answer, period. Bullet points, 1 bullet point. So once you understand how the structure of the answer works, when you get into the exam, you're not tempted to begin to teach the grader the answer. That is wrong. You do not teach the grader the answer. You tell the grader the answer in 1 or 2 bullet points. It's the repetition of going through 8 of those sessions. And yes, we have 8 different mock exams, each with 2 sessions. So there's 16 possible sessions that you can go through. There is no shortage of live help on our site before the exam. Take advantage of those. But in prioritizing, I would say do the in-reading questions, then use our sessions. EOCQs, I don't know, and I can't comment on the CFA IQ bank because I've never seen it. They don't let me see that stuff. Well, you were a prop trader. You mentioned you generally couldn't hold positions overnight. Does this mean you were basically day trading? Was this extremely difficult? Well, I mean, you could hold positions overnight, but under your capital requirement. So if you were given, let's say that you had daytime limits of 2 million, that's a 10-to-1, right? Which means you could not go into the night over your capital, which was 200,000. You can't use your leverage to go in overnight. So it was a lot of day trading. That's what proprietary trading is. It's a lot of day trading, which was absolutely exhausting because you're sitting in front of a screen all day long, and the worst thing is no volatility. And when you have no volatility, it is bloody boring because you're begging and looking for something, but you can't know everything. So you have your target list of things that you're willing to move in and out of because you understand the clientele effect for each of those particular securities. And then you get no volatility. Those are the worst days because you're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere on that. But you just couldn't enter the night above your capital requirement because it wasn't your money. I mean, you could, but there was a charge. It was an interest charge over the course of the night, which could end up being quite expensive. What L3 section study order do you recommend? The hard ones first, followed by the easy ones. I think fixed income is the more challenging one, so give yourself the most time. Start there. Capital market expectations. There's 2 readings on economics. That can be challenging because you have some formulas in there, and you got to develop capital market expectations for fixed income, for real estate, for equity, for fixed income. For currencies. So it can be, a little challenging. Would you suggest to create own mind maps? Yeah. I think drawing out these little things and putting things on. We in our mind can remember a picture better than we can remember a list. We remember a story better than we remember a list. So if you can tell stories or draw pictures, it does help you recall. But that's all it really does, is it helps you recall. It doesn't help you analyze, evaluate, or create. And when we get to level 3, the questions tend to be more higher level learning than lower level learning. So the mind maps, while they may help you keep straight a whole bunch of concepts in a reading you may not be familiar with, let me give you a question set up. And I did this in the last video for level 3. I'm going to give you 5 key rates: the 2, the 5, the 10, the 20, the 30 today. And I'm going to give you a forecast for the 5 key rates. I'm going to give you the Fed funds rate now and a forecast for the Fed funds rate. And I'm going to tell you got a benchmark. What do you want to do? Now, we know there are 3 factors in the yield curve. There's level, slope, and curvature. And your benchmark's going to pick them all up because you got a benchmark. So you got to evaluate the curve today, the curve in a year, and you got to say, well, what's it doing? What are the 3 factors doing? What's going on with levels? What's going on with slope? What's going on with curvature? Because I know my benchmark's going to get them, and I got to beat my benchmark. So I got to do something with slope. I got to be better than my benchmark. I got to do something with slope. I got to be better than my benchmark. Well, now you got to set up a trade, create a trade. I don't know how you're going to do a mind map for that. I mean, you could do a mind map that tells you there are 3 factors in the yield curve: level, slope, and curvature. But how do you do a mind map on the scenarios? Because I'm going to present a scenario. You're going to have to analyze the scenario. Then you're going to have to evaluate what's going on and what you want to do. Then you must create the trade. So you have remembering, understanding, application. Those are the first 3 levels of Bloom. There's level 1. Then you have analysis, which level 2 starts to get into. Then you have evaluation and creation. That's where level 3 hangs out, at those upper levels. So when I say I don't like the word fail, is because I don't think that you fail a level 3 exam. I think you simply do not pass. And you may say, oh, you sound like all those lefties who are just changing the language to suit their own needs. What you're doing when you go into a level 3 exam and you do not pass is you went in there thinking you were writing a level 1 or level 2 exam. That if it were written as a level 1 or level 2 exam, you knew it. You knew it to that level. You just didn't get to the level of evaluation and creation, which is where level 3 hangs out. So you passed a probably level 1 or level 2 version of level 3, but you did not pass the level 3 version of level 3, the higher order learning of level 3. I think mind maps probably are great at level 1, helpful at level 2, somewhat helpful at level 3, somewhat helpful. Let's see. When you are going to add the new seminar series for level 3 August 23 exam, how can it be purchased? If you are buying level 1, level 2, or level 3, the plus series, it has the applied series within it. There is no expiry date on the applied series, by the way. So you always have that. And if you're going to then subscribe to the charter holder package, which we'll have later this fall, you have to have the applied series base component to add the charter holder subscription to. So you already have that component. So that's how you do it, or you just simply buy the applied series. There are 2 options in which you can do that, but the portfolio management and construction starts in August. That one is a long one. Every week we're going to do something. It's not meant to help you build a portfolio and try to achieve a certain Sharpe ratio. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to set up our screens and we're going to introduce you to trades that you may never have known that you could do. So we'll do some curve trades. We'll do some pairs trades. We'll do some volatility trades, just so that you understand all of the tools that you have available to you. Once that's done, you reset your paper account to zero. Now you do it seriously. Now you do it as if you're truly building a portfolio so that you can have a couple of quarters of results so that when you walk into a job interview, you can then put them out there. You can say, here's my printouts from Interactive Brokers. Notice my Sharpe ratio. Here was my benchmark. Here's my outperformance on my benchmark. Here's my performance attribution. And all of those printouts are available from IB. You can get them all printed out. But first, let's really run you through the paces and understand all the machines in the gym that you can work on. And once you understand all the machines in the gym and how they all work, now we'll set out your workout routine. You get that? So that's what this seminar is meant to do, is to show you how do we know that this is the trade we want? What's the setup for it? How do we take advantage of it? What time periods do we use? Are we using futures, options, ETFs? I mean, if you're trading oil, there must be at least a dozen different ways to trade oil if you're trading oil, all with different investment requirements, different leverage, different payoffs, different risk profiles. That's what that thing is going to do. Let's see. Do you think the preparation for someone attempting level 3 for a second time should be no different from a regular candidate on his first attempt? Well, I don't know if I would say it should be any different. I don't think you should abandon what you did at level 1 and level 2. I think that's a component of it. But understand that level 3 is messier in the sense that it's not just a bunch of memorization. Level 1 is a lot of declarative knowledge. What is a bond? What's the relationship between yields and bonds? You can memorize your way through that stuff, but at level 3, you're just expected to know that stuff, and you're given scenarios and you're asked to, here's 2 credit risky bonds. This is what our expectation is of the credit spreads. Construct a trade with credit default swaps, to take advantage of that position. So you don't memorize your way through that. You really have to understand what's going on. So you have to start thinking about more in terms of I guess I wouldn't call it debate, but more of a discussion around it. You should be able to discuss the pros and cons of different of different approaches to doing things. Let's see. I just lost the question here. Let me see if I can find it. For X, would you recommend starting by your sequence suggested or by things we've done poorly? Okay, I'm not sure what that all means, but for X, I guess fixed income first or things we've done poorly. Well, if it's your second time around, start with the things you've done poorly. If it's your first time, start with fixed income. At least that's what, there it is for retakers. Yeah, start with where you've done poorly, right? But don't forget to continually keep reviewing the things you've done well. Otherwise, you'll forget them and they'll just be the new things you do poorly, right? Failed the third level 3 times. Was probably YouTube videos helped me with perspective. I pass on the 4th. There you go. Good. Are there going to be any additions to the videos, such as reviews or additional EOQ for level 3 2023? I don't think. No, I don't think so. There is a seminar series that starts end of May. It runs for 6 weeks. I don't know how many sessions concurrently I will run. I'll see what the demand is, but this is for people with multiple DNPs. What I think is missing is, how do you start learning at a higher level? You've all learned how to get through level 1, level 2. You all got the lower levels of learning done. How do you elevate learning to those higher levels? Is it a different way of looking at things? So that's what those seminars will do. There'll be 6 of them. And hopefully I can get you to see the complexity in the content, and then from that, pull out the simplicity in that complexity. I don't know what it's going to look like yet. I'm still working it through in my mind. I've got some ideas of, ways that I can present things differently, but I haven't got the whole thing done yet. I'll have it done, but That's the new thing. More office hours and at different hours, three different time sessions now. I'm holding up two fingers, three different time sessions now. And same with the mock exams, more varied hours on those. So that's what will be added. I don't know that adding more video would do anything because there's already so many hours of video anything that throwing more time at you doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. That I think live interactions are better. I think in 3 hours of an office hours session, I can answer more questions than I can type out on the system in a week. In 3 hours, I can get that done, right? I wanted to thank you for all your help. I've just got my pass result for level 3. Can't make a LinkedIn post for you without going through compliance's 9 circles of hell. Yeah, probably. Well, congrats. Damn, my boy Mark looking fresh with the cut. Oh, my haircut. Yeah, I invested a lot of money in this about a week ago, and I have a recurring investment that happens, I think, every 4 weeks now. So, you know, when I get on the scale, after you cut your hair, you find that you've lost like 43 grams. It feels good. Are you any considerations to do videos going over your mock exams? I do. On every mock exam, if you click on show video for the structured response questions, a video pops up and I go through it. Not only that, I also do the live sessions for them as well. So I do have videos for them. Let's see. Do you have a video of what is the sequence to study level 3? I think, Jen, I've already answered that question. What advice do you have for adjusting to preparing for the L3 structured response questions? Attend the sessions that I do. Having written many structured response questions in my life and having used structured response even at the university level, the idea behind structured response is that your answer follows a particular structure that everybody can get right, that it's easy to grade. It's an open response question that is easy to grade without any subjective content. That's the point of structured response. They can't be essay questions because as soon as you have 3, 4, 5 cognitive steps, you will have an answer tree that just keeps branching out. The number of answers increases with every cognitive step that you have to take. The branching increases unless I have words in the narrative that shut down all of those branches. So if I need a question with 3 cognitive steps, I can't do it in 110 words. I need 300 words to set up that question because I have to shut down all the different cognitive branches such that there is only one pathway through. So all questions will be 1, maybe 2 cognitive steps away, period. So if you're thinking, well, okay, this will happen, and if that happens, then they'll do this, and if they do that, then this changes here and it goes down, and then this, stop. That's 4 cognitive steps away. You're going to be wrong right there. It cannot be 4 cognitive steps away. There is no way that everyone can get to the same answer. It's going to be 1 or 2 cognitive steps away. What did you study during your college years? First degree was economics. Then I did a double major, finance and accounting. I also have a computer science undergrad, an MBA, and a PhD. May I ask if you provide any sessions to analyze exam results? Like, do I look at your exam results and go through it? No, not personally. I just don't have the time in the day to get that done. But we do have advisors on the site, people that have written their level 3 exam and are done and are charter holders. We do have academic guidance that if you want somebody to walk through your results with you, you can book a session. That can be done. What is the value of note taking at level 3? I never took notes for level 1 and level 2, but I'm hearing conflicting things. Well, it really depends. Everyone has a different way they like doing things. I find that note taking only makes sense if you plan to review the notes. In university, I saw a lot of people ruin their books with yellow highlighter, just highlighting line after line after line, and then they never went back and reviewed it. So that to me seemed like just a waste of time if you're not going to go back and review it. So if you're going to make notes but never review your notes, then yeah, you're wasting your time, right? But I mean, if you're making notes so that you have a condensed version to go back and review, then that makes sense. At level 3, though, it's going to be hard to think about all the scenarios. So, I think there's a limitation on note taking there, but everyone's different. Everyone's different. So, I don't like, for instance, I don't like if I'm watching a video, I don't like a narrator to read something to me. If they're just reading off the screen, I hit pause and I'll read the screen. Thank you. But if they're narrating something off the screen and then they stop and they add some clarity, or they bring something more to it than just repeating what's written on the screen, then I'll listen. But I don't like being read to. I like reading it myself. Because I'll read it with different stresses on different words. I'll read it maybe seeing something that the reader is perhaps not seeing. We're all different. So that you're hearing conflicting things, I don't think that's shocking at all. That you would not hear conflicting things, I think would be odd. I just registered with you, but don't see anything in office hours and drop-in sessions because those aren't posted yet. Because those will go live sometime in, I believe, beginning of June. Because the office hours, and I think, are July and mid to end of July, or yeah, beginning to the end of July, and then the exam sessions are end of July to August. So they're not posted yet, but they will be. Don't worry, we'll have them. How to keep the CFA knowledge when having a job in which we don't practice this knowledge on a frequent basis? Yeah, that is a challenge, right? It's the use it or lose it sort of thing. You have to find a way to use it. Either you're going to run a paper portfolio, or you're going to manage your own money, or you're going to, you know, watch the open, like the Bloomberg in the morning. Like when you first get up, turn on Bloomberg. Not MSNBC or Fox News to figure out, or to be told what to think for the day. Watch Bloomberg. Be in the game. Try to put yourself in the game as much as possible. That's all I can recommend. And if you're not playing the game, you got to find a way to start playing it because, well, I imagine you went through the CFA levels because you want to play the game. You got to find a way to play it. Do you have any biohacks for mental clarity, focus, and information retention? Hey, you know what works super, super well? Go walk around the block a couple times. Go outside and get actual fresh air into your lungs. You'll be amazed at what that does. And shorten your study sessions to 15, 20 minutes, and then you can slowly start increasing them, but have frequent study sessions during the day and have it clear in your mind what it is you're trying to get done in each study session. Screw quantity. Just screw quantity to say I'm going to do 10 pages each time, 15 minutes, 10 pages. Screw that. Because you'll always be working with the clock and what you're trying to do. You can't exceed your brain speed limit. Otherwise, nothing's going to work. It's just, that's pure wasted time. You have to stay under your brain speed limit, and we all have different speed limits. And we all have different speed limits for different subjects. Some subjects I got to slow down on. Some I can race through because I can see it. I can see clarity as I go through. And then you just increase the amount of time each time. But what you're doing in each session, when I say forget quantity, you're looking for quality. And you're saying, I'm going to walk away with, 1 or 2 pages of perfect clarity. That's all. And you'll find that if you build that base slow, what happens is you start increasing the amount of content you can get through because you've got such a solid foundation, and everything builds on that foundation where you go, okay, I get all that. But if you race through the foundation and you've got all of these holes in your knowledge, and you get to the higher level, or things that build on that, they'll say something, you go, I'm not getting that. It's not because you're not getting that. It's because you're missing something down here that if you had that foundation, makes that not even worth explaining, because you'll know it at that point, right? I guess that's the biohack. And sleep. Sleep's a big thing. What I've noticed is this. I have a hot tub out back. When I sit in my hot tub at night, I sleep like nothing else. And I think it's my hot tub, but it's not my hot tub. It's not the hot tub that does it. What does it is the lack of screens in front of my face that last half hour before I go to sleep. That's what does it, is not having a screen, an iPad or a screen in front of my face. It just so happens it's a spurious correlation. Oh, I sit in my hot tub, I have a great sleep. Let me go sit in my hot tub. I get the same result if I just turn off all the screens. Have a nice herbal tea, have some soft classical music playing in the background, and just let myself go. A quarter of the way through the cup of tea, I'm drifting off. I've never been able to finish a cup of tea doing that. So try that. And if you get a good night's sleep, your clarity in the morning is super sharp. Let's see. I have been struggling with the structured response. Sometimes my answer is slightly, I already answered that. Just wanted to thank you for getting me through all the levels. Just past the third level, 22 and you passed the third level. Way to go. I'm finishing up The Black Swan, which I've heard you recommend a couple of times. What were your thoughts on this book? He takes quite a few shots at a chunk of content where we see the curriculum level 1-3. Yeah, he points out, quite rightly, in fact, that the normal distribution is not an appropriate distribution, because if it was, we would not see certain events as often as we see certain events. So there must be something, we want to abandon the normal distribution. I think it's an important book to read so that you understand that, well, I'm not going to rely on normality, but that was never the point of normality. The normal distribution is a perfect form. There are no perfect forms in the world. However, in understanding the perfect form, it's easier to understand the deviation from the perfect form than it is to understand the messiness from nothing to what we have. Here's the complexity. Sometimes there's much more simplicity in the deviation than there is in the sum of what we're looking at. So having a normal distribution is a perfect form. Deviations from normality are easy to understand. But take away all the distribution and say, here's what happens in the real world. Make sense of it. Well, I need some framework in which to make sense of it. Well, that's the normal distribution. But we don't marry the normal distribution and say, aha, everything's going to be normal at this point. It's that there are going to be deviations from normality. How do I take advantage of it when I see something sticking too closely to normality? Because my opportunity lies in the deviation. My understanding lies in the deviation, and simplicity lies in that, not in the complexity of building up from nothing. Do you get what I'm saying? So sometimes it's easier to study the gap than it is to study the sum of everything. That's why we study models. Models are not meant to be a perfect reflection of reality. They're meant to be a simplification of reality from which we expect deviations, and the simplicity of it all lies in the deviations. Let's see. I'm not even doing any of the CFA levels. I'm a software engineer, just supporting you. Okay, great. Are you still long TLT, or has your view changed? If you watch today's market outlook, I am still long TLT and looking to add more long calls for 105 calls for March 2024. Thoughts on moving from sell side to buy side, or from sell side to not in ratings to sell side in ratings? Do you think experience in ratings is worth it, beneficial for a buy side career? Well, when you say ratings, I imagine you're talking credit, or are you talking equity when ratings in terms of buy, sell, overweight, underweight? I imagine that. Well, that's got to be helpful. I mean, it has to be helpful. The ability to analyze in that sense, yeah, I think that would be helpful. When you say you're in sell side but not in ratings, I don't know where you are. Um, but yeah, the buy side is where everyone wants to be, right? The buy side is it's kind of like the rock and roll side. The sell side is more like country, but not modern country. It's like your grandfather's country. How do I start investing? Buy something. You buy something. And I would say that if it's your first time starting, buy the market. Just buy an ETF that tracks the market and slowly start to move out from there. That's probably the best way. And start with a goal of saying, I'm going to buy the market and hold it for 10 years. And as you learn more, you might say, I can do a little bit better than just the market. I can add more exposure to consumer discretionary, consumer state. I can lean into this sector. Maybe after a while, you could say, well, the market doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Maybe I can sell covered calls, 10 delta or 16 delta covered calls, just to get your feet wet in selling calls and generating income. But that's how you start. Do you have a video of what is the sequence? Again, Jen, I've answered the question. Yeah, I'm doing your counsel for people who work and CFA Canada at the same time. Okay. I'm not sure there's a question in there. Do you still think the Fed will likely need to cut rates by the end of the year due to stress? If shit hits the fan, yeah, they'll cut rates. But they're not going to cut rates just because you have a slowing economy. That's not going to happen. Something has to break significantly that they cannot fix with just some kind of extraordinary measure. Something has to break quite significantly. Let's see. Level 2, 23rd of May. Was planning to see your question bank, if not solved, but how it looks difficult to cover all topics along with reading videos. In the time left, how should I improvise my plan? Well, you don't have a lot of time left. It's April 23rd, February. You should be in review mode by now. So I don't know that running through a whole bunch of question banks makes a lot of sense. Do some, but this idea of running through 5,000, 6,000 questions, I don't know that adds a lot of value. I mean, if I don't know a particular reading and I do 30 questions and I get under 50%, and I think, well, maybe if I just do another 30 questions, I'll get over 50. Without having an intervention saying clearly, I don't understand the I think it probably would be better for me to spend more time trying to understand the content than answering more and more questions. Looks difficult to cover all topics. Well, if you haven't covered all the topics, there's only one solution, is you got to increase quite dramatically the amount of hours per day you have. What is your criteria for including a blue box example from the textbook in your video lectures? I don't know that I have a criteria as much as, I read it, I look at it, I go, that's a pretty good one. That's a pretty good example. Let me put that one in. And then I'll look at the next one. I'll say, that's kind of a repeat of the first one. I don't need to do two that are so the same. But if it's different than the first and it shows a different perspective or it covers a different amount of content, I'll look at it and go, okay, that's a pretty good one too. I just read them and do them. That's it. Let's see. I read on CFA subreddit that the L3 questions are very open-ended and that the Q bank doesn't cover. Who said that? How was it said? In what context was it said? What do they mean by open-ended? What Q bank doesn't cover? What questions? So many so many things for me to answer it. The thing about Reddit is anybody can say anything, right? I mean, anybody can say anything. That doesn't mean that there's merit to what the person said. So I heard, I read, I saw somewhere. I find those to be questions that I don't really answer too much, because it's like, well, I need more clarity on it. So I don't know how to answer that one. When earning hours, does CFA consider MFDA advisory hours earned prior to becoming a CFA candidate? These are anything about that kind of stuff. I don't really know. That I would direct right to CFAI. If level 3 is not as relevant as to your job, how do you recommend keeping the content interesting and applicable? Well, do you have a favorite sports team? Is that sports team applicable to your job? Probably not. How do you keep it interesting? Right? Either you have an interest in it or you don't. If you have an interest in it, doesn't really matter. You'll keep it interesting. If you don't have an interest in it, then you'll start to wonder, well, how do I keep it interesting or applicable if it has nothing to do with my job? You've got to find a way to get into the game. Or, you could say, well, are you fulfilled and satisfied and happy in your job? And if you are, and this stuff isn't relevant to your job, then the question then becomes, is this something I even care about? Right? Job in finance industry is prerequisite to pass CFA Level 3 exam for an accountant. Well, I would say, when it comes to the work requirement, I don't really know 100%. I know that it's either in an analyst position or an asset manager position. But the boundaries of what an analyst position is can be open to interpretation. Same with asset management. Those boundaries can be open to interpretation. So I don't really know. I would say that that's a question I would direct towards CFAI. I suggest you reading Brothers Karamazov. I have read Brothers Karamazov, by the way. I have read it. Great book, long book, but I have read it. Do you think 33 is too old to start a career in finance? Nope, I do not think it's too old. Enough with this thing about age, right? No age is too old to do anything, unless you're talking about wearing certain types of clothes. Then yeah, I would say that at a certain age, you should stop wearing certain types of clothes, and you should stop acting a certain way. But as far as learning, there is no age limit on learning or trying something new. There is no age limit on that at all. I'm not getting the memo either. You too, huh? Yeah. No one sends it to me. Can you touch more on answering calculation questions and structure questions, formula, writing out the numbers and the signs in an efficient way? Don't bother writing out any notation. RE equals RF sub, ignore that. No notation. Put the variables in place right away. 63 plus 52 over 4 multiplied by 96. Put all the variables in order right away. Don't put any notation in. If you have a calculate question and you know the answer, put the answer down, because the grader starts at the answer. If you got the right answer, let's say you got a whole bunch of stuff, you got the right answer, you get full marks. You get full marks for the answer. Done. Not even going to look at the other stuff. Not even going to look. You've got full marks. Just put the answer down. If you're pressed for time, put the answer down. If at the end of the exam you say, okay, well, now I have some extra time. There were a couple of calculate questions I did where I was given the opportunity to show my steps. I think I got the right answer, but let me just go ahead and type out equals and put all of the variables in place, the actual numbers, just in case I got it wrong. I might be able to get marks on putting the variables in place. Don't type out notation. Don't waste your time typing out notation. Don't waste your time. Don't touch the formula editor. Just put it in a straight line. The grader's an expert. The grader can read it. Don't worry about that. Let's see. Why do you not have a CFA? Redundancy. There are a couple of things I don't have. Let me shock you with something. I never graduated high school. I'm a high school dropout. Should I go back and finish high school? Right? There is a point of redundancy that even if I do have it, what's the point? It's sort of under an umbrella of everything else I've done. So it would be, well, redundant. There'd be no point. It would be like, I don't know, getting another undergraduate degree in a business school. Why would I ever do that? Oh, well, but you don't have an undergrad in marketing. So what? I don't care. I do all my own marketing, and I seem to have been pretty good at it. I got a business from, no subscribers to second largest globally, all without a single penny in advertising, because marketing is more than just your ad. It's your whole product experience. Somebody can come along and say, but you don't have an undergrad in marketing. How could you possibly do? Well, you don't need it. There are some things that are redundant. Warren Buffett doesn't have a CFA. If Warren Buffett held a class on investing, would you show up? I would. Damn right I would. But he doesn't have a charter. So what? So no, it's a matter of redundancy. And I reject this idea that that you need that to teach it. There is nothing in the CFA curriculum at level 1, 2, or 3 that is unique to CFA other than ethics and GIPS. Level 1 and level 2 quant, any first and second year stats textbook, and deeper. Portfolio construction, I got a whole bunch of textbooks up here from my university days on portfolio construction. Fixed income, derivatives. There's one on real estate investing. There's one on REITs. Heck, the whole bookshelf is full of this. There is nothing proprietary to the knowledge that is there. What qualifies you, I think, to teach is an understanding of the structure of knowledge, not the content, the structure of knowledge. This idea that I have passed 3 tests, I am now qualified to teach this stuff. You believe that? Do you believe that simply passing 3 tests makes you qualified to teach when you've had no training in assessment, no training in pedagogy, no training in any of the assumptions or the structure of the knowledge that builds the knowledge base of this industry? If it were true that all you need to do is pass a test and you're qualified to teach, every single teacher you would have had in first year university would have been a second year student. Why waste the money paying $120,000, $130,000 for tenure track professors when you could just pay a second year student to teach first year calculus? Now, here's the interesting thing. Let's say you agree that, yeah, if somebody passes first year calculus, they should be able to teach first year calculus. What if the curriculum changes by 50%? They didn't write a test on that 50%. They only wrote a test on half of it. They didn't pass a test on the other 50%. So when you have individuals who got their charter in 1999 and state, oh, if you don't have the charter, you can't teach us. Well, neither can you, because you passed a test on stuff that happened 20 years ago. The content is completely different than now. So by your own admission, you're not qualified to teach, right? I reject that idea that you simply have to pass 3 tests and you're qualified to teach. No, you are not. You cannot just say, I got at least 70% on 3 tests. Please trust me and hand your learning over to me. You want to find somebody, I think, that understands the structure of knowledge, that has training in pedagogy and assessment, right? That's sort of my thinking. That's a long answer for why I don't have it. I find it that it would be redundant for me to have. And you can put your comment in the comment section. Show of hands, does anyone think that I can't pass these three tests? If there's somebody out there that says, oh, I don't think that you can pass these three tests, speak up. I'd like to hear it. Also, will the level 3 curriculum change for 2024? You see, the thing is, I already know that answer. So any answer I give sort of gives the answer away. But I would say this to you, being that there are so many changes in 2025, if you were CFAI, it's not cheap to change the content. Would you invest money in changing something that you're simply going to change in 2025? Now, you can be a bit of an analyst and you can make that assessment saying, well, it would be foolhardy for management to put CapEx into something that's changing so dramatically in 2025. And then you can sort of have your own probability of what would happen. An extension to a previous question. What are your views on Wilfrid Laurier University Finance Co-op program? Wilfrid Laurier is a good school. Do you think it would lead to good opportunities in finance? That's hard to say. It's a good school. For finance, the top schools, I think, are U of T and McGill in Canada. But Wilfrid Laurier is a good school. I don't know if they're like different companies have different target schools, right? So that's big in the US, where different companies, will recruit on certain campuses and that's it. The way you could judge your probability is to ask, what companies recruit on campus, because sometimes it's a government school where the government of Canada, which does recruit quite a bit from universities, will recruit at specific schools, so that a lot of the graduates disproportionately go on to either go on to government jobs or go into banking. The different banks do recruit heavily on campuses, and some banks have specific target schools. Is Wilfrid Laurier a target school for any organization that you'd like to work for? You can ask that question. Live in Germany and trade both EU and US sessions. It used to be that if during EU session there would be a new low or new high, that level would be tested. Well, it's been crazy lately. Drops during Asia EU session by up to 1%. The total V-shaped recoveries. Yeah, you said nothing happened at all. Would like to get that magical memo. I think we'd all like to get the memo, because it does seem to just happen like that. When you see the red bars going down, then no, everybody right up the side of the chart. You're looking at going, what happened? You're looking at your news feed. Okay, it may be a couple of minutes delayed. You find out that nothing happened at 10:17 and 43 seconds. Just somebody got the memo. There's a group of people who all got the memo, and I didn't get it. So if there is a mailing list out there, I'm not on it. Now, I should be on it, but I'm not on it. So yeah, and I can see here there's a bunch of us not getting the memo. But yeah, you're right. It just flip a coin. What inspired you to become a professor? I think I was always a good student. Learning was just natural for me, and I was not one of those kids who hated school. I loved school. I really did. When I found out in high school that you didn't need to graduate high school to go to university, I was like, what? How am I hearing about this now? So I just did a summer correspondence course in grade 12 math so that I could jump right to grade 13. Did the grade 13 credits, didn't even do them all. You needed 6 of them. I only did 5, and headed right to university. I enjoyed the tutoring. I enjoyed the TA. I enjoyed the grading, the giving, the feedback. That I just enjoyed it. I always was happiest doing that, and that's basically what it just sort of drew me in. You just sort of keep drifting, to where you're happiest, and there. I don't know the word happy. Most meaningful, I think, was there. Let's see. Also, it was difficult getting a job as a professor. How long did you work as one? No, it wasn't difficult. At the time, for me, it wasn't difficult at the time. Today, I think it would be very difficult for me to get a job in a university. Um, I think we all know what's going on in the culture, especially on university campuses. You've all got eyes. You can look at me, and I'm sure you can come up with two or three reasons off the top of your head why I would probably never get a job at a university. Um, live in a country that has no CFA society or charters. I'm really into the CFA program. What advice would you provide? Well, there's a whole community on Reddit, a whole community there. The more you join in on conversations, the more people get to know you. There's a whole community there. There are a lot of people on YouTube that are in the CFA program that pick a very, very narrow niche of something. So let's say that you're going to be the casino person and you're going to analyze casinos in different parts of the world that are publicly traded. And every week you're going to give an update on what this casino's doing and that casino. And that's the thing you do. That's your channel. That's how you build community, is you provide your community with something of value. And then slowly you figure out, well, okay, if I can provide something of value, maybe now I can monetize this in some degree. Maybe there's a business in here for me where people will pay for even better and more in-depth knowledge. Maybe you don't like casinos. Maybe you like something else. Whatever the case is, you don't have to wait for a company to come around and say, here's a paycheck. There are all sorts of social media platforms where you can get started. There's Substack, there's Twitter, lots of finance, and respectable thoughts on Twitter. Not that nonsense, not all that bloody social nonsense, but in the finance area, lots of good stuff there. YouTube videos. I mean, some of the people who are putting out YouTube videos have no reason to put out YouTube videos. They come with almost no gravitas at all and say things that are just pure nonsense. This is how you start. You step out. You have the courage to say, I'm going to say these things. I'm going to be this person, and I'm going to keep at it. So pick something you like. Maybe you like steel companies. Maybe you like restaurant chains. Maybe you like alcohol distributors. I don't know. Pick something that you enjoy. Maybe you like gaming companies that make games. I don't know, but pick something and start thinking about it. Start learning about it and share your learning with everyone else. Share your learning, and this is, you don't know where it's going to get you, but from step by step you'll get to somewhere. You just don't know where, but you're on the path, right? You're playing the game and you're on the path to somewhere. Let's see. Can you please suggest how to study for equity, derivatives, and currency management how to study for equity and currency and derivatives and alternative investments the same way you study for everything else. Listen, there is nothing so unique about the CFA program that you can't take what you did in university and apply it here. The only difference is in university you got to build your grade over time. Here it's one exam. How many final exams have you written in your life? Final exams are 3 hours long. Right? Every semester you're writing what? Anywhere from 3 to 5 final exams every semester. Well, you can think of the CFA as 2 final exams. I mean, you have one session that's 2 hours and 15 minutes, followed by another that's 2 hours and 15 minutes. Those are short final exams. So you say, well, I got two final exams coming up. You studied for final exams before, where it was a whole semester, 5 classes, final exam. The same thing. Well, however you learned then is the same way you do it now. This is not so different. In fact, it's no different than what you've done. University teaches you two things. Number one, it teaches you stuff you put in your head so that you can go into an industry and say, I know this stuff. The other thing it teaches you is the ability to learn new stuff, that when you leave university, you should have the tools to be your own learner. You don't need formal teaching all the time. You should have learned how to learn. Those are the two big things you leave university with. So you should not be asking me these questions, how to study for them. You've already learned that. This is the same stuff, just without the assignment, the midterm, the group project, which no one likes, and the final exam. The beautiful thing about CFA is that there is no group work, right? You don't have to get up in front of a class with a group of people who didn't do the work and present something. You get to avoid that. There's no group work. You don't have to form groups. That's a check mark in the plus column. Let's see. If buying your full access course is your office hours outside of regular work. If buying your full access course is your office hours outside of regular work hours, well, they will have multiple hours. So yes, one of the 3 sessions for each of the topics I do is bound to be outside of your work hours. Yes. But if I say, well, there's one session from noon to 2, and you might say, well, those are my work hours. They may be your work hours, but over on the other side of the pond, it is after work for other people. So you just find the one that is outside of your work hours. Yes. As one fee to completion, it doesn't offer me access to the office hours. What? It doesn't? No way. Well, then you should be saying something. If you have one fee to completion, if you're one of the legacy subscribers for that, then you should have access to the office hours. Absolutely. That is an oversight. There is something wrong in the programming there. Support at markmeldrum.com. Send in an email and say, hey, buddy, fix this. Well, don't say it that way. Say, hi, how are you? Fantastic site. I have a question, though. If you start off that way, you get people's attention. An extension to a previous question. What are your views? Oh, I already answered that. Will you eventually take the exams to become a charter holder? Nope. How to properly practice. And I just lost where the questions were. Oh, there we are. Let me scroll down. I'm almost near the end. Got to get back to where I left off. Okay, how to properly practice for constructed questions. Attend the sessions I have. They'll begin late July through August, and I think the last one is up to 4 days before the exam. There is 5 mock exams, 2 sessions for each one, 2 to 3 hours for each session. There are 3 long workshops. These are longer exams, which have up to 3 hours of exam questions in there. Those are 3-hour sessions, 2 of those as well. So 3, 6, and 10, 16, 32 hours of live sessions. After 32 hours, you should get it. You don't have to attend 32 hours, though. So studying level 3 is like reading the Bible, taking every 5 lines or 3 minutes of your videos to reflect about what I have heard about. Sure. If you want to look at it that way, if you want to take it nice and slow like that and get all of the richness out of it, yeah, I do. I think that's okay. But I don't know if you're saying it in terms of it's great, it's fun, it's kind of like this, or it's kind of like this. So I don't know where to go with that because text doesn't have context, unfortunately. Would you have a list of applied videos that applies level 3, level 2 content, or you consider to add them as part of the seminar for level 3 readings? In the applied series for level 3, a lot of level 3, capital market expectations, we go through that on every market outlook. We look at where rates are. We look at where the Fed is most likely to go. This week, I'm, for the capital market expectations for rates, I'm saying that, uh, we have the very real possibility here of being in this sideways zone for a while. That forward curve, the 1 month forward, the 3 month forward curve, which is inverted now, is going to have to flatten. That's going to cause a curve steepener and higher yields, higher cost of capital, lower present value of future cash flows. That's got to depress equity prices. We do capital market expectations every week. So in terms of level 3, it's there. We may not actually say expected return on bonds equals this and that. Here's my expected change in yields and that, but some direction on where we're going. So we do that. What stage in your life did you roughly reach your current level of knowledge, skill, and finance? Yesterday. My current knowledge and skill, I reached it yesterday. And if you ask me that next Sunday, I'll say yesterday, because every day you learn. Every day there's something new. Every day there's something going on. Every day you make new connections. That's a beautiful thing about experience, is it doesn't stop. It's cumulative. So if you bring me a waiter, let's say a server with 20 years experience, isn't that just the same thing as 1 year repeated 20 times, right? So for some jobs, 20 years of experience is the same as 1 year repeated 20 times or 30 times. But in this game, 20 years of experience is 20 years of experience is different than 15. You can't say, 15, 20, it's about the same. No, because I've seen an additional part of a cycle that other person hasn't. Every cycle is a little bit different. The cycles are kind of repetitive in the sense, but every cycle has its own unique character. So that extra 5 years means I've seen things that this other person hasn't. So how long did it take me to get to this current level? Yesterday, because I didn't read anything today. So yesterday. And next week I'll say yesterday. So it never ends. It's always cumulative. Just past level 3. Okay, there we go. Good. Follow up on the roadmap in depth for creators for level 3 with best way to practice that. I think a lot of the in reading examples that you get to, those long examples, do a good job of that. So I would say, see if you can go through those, and not just go through them, but as you're going through them, imagine that you have to teach somebody, some invisible other person that's sitting opposite you who just doesn't get it, which means you have to be able to explain it to a 5-year-old. When you can do that, then you have it. With a person who's already a charter holder for a couple of years and wants to review the materials related to valuations, would you recommend level 2 or level 3? Level 2 is the valuation level, right? So if you're thinking about, valuing equity or derivatives, for example, well, derivatives is really just a time value of money problem, but you're probably thinking more of equities. Level 2 equity is kind of like the book for that one. Level 3 emphasizes more on high level understanding. Do you think your videos are sufficient enough to provide? Yeah, because we have at level 3, we have a much higher pass rate than the industry. So yeah. Now, if our pass rate, the pass rate was 48%. If our pass rate was 35%, then I would say we got a problem. But we are significantly higher than that because we have a 1 fee to pass. So over a period of time, we can see how many people use the 1 fee to pass. We know we're way above the industry pass rate of 48%. So to say, when you ask, are the videos enough? They must be. Because we have a significantly high pass rate. And it's not like we have 200 or 300 candidates. We're in the thousands at level 3. We're in the thousands. So we have a large enough sample for it to be valid. So it's not like, you have a small sample. If you had a larger sample, it may not work out. We have a very large sample. I'd say at level 3, we probably have the second largest sample. Well, third largest. CFAI has the largest sample, but on the private side, there's probably only one player that has a level 3 sample greater than us, and that name shall not be mentioned. Let's see. Does level 3 cover well FX options? Not really. Not really. And if not, what source do you recommend for those types of options? For currency options, well, it depends on options on what? What's the underlying? Is the underlying the actual currency itself, or is the underlying a futures contract? If it's a futures contract, well, then the option works the same way it will work on any futures contract. You have an expiration date, and then you have an underlying. The underlying will be, well, what contract is the underlying? And for currencies, you have monthly expirations. I think the Canadian is in the first week of each month. Different ones may have different expirations. If you're talking about the currency itself, very illiquid, small, and it's based on dollar volume as opposed to contract amount, like $10,000, I think is the amount on each option. Yeah, I think 10,000. Really illiquid. Maybe you'll get in, but you're not getting out. Even if you're wrong, you're not getting out. There's just no volume on any of those. I wouldn't even touch those at all. If you're doing options on currencies, it's going to be options on the futures. What are your thoughts on Ray Dalio's book Principles? I haven't read it. Would it be a good recommendation for retail investors to build a process to analyze information? Well, it's his process, right? It's what's in his head. It's his process. I think Howard Marks has a better one. I think his thinking about cycles, and it's not like a bunch of stupid technical cycles. They're legitimate fundamental cycles. I think if I had to pick between Dalio and Howard Marks, I'd pick Howard Marks in a heartbeat. And he's a fellow charter holder for you other charter holders out there. Let's see. DNP 3 times, considering trying one more time. Well, not considering. You're going to do it. You don't stop at level 3. You don't get to the gates and then decide, okay, let's turn the army back and go back home. You're going to do it. I mean, corporate finance, struggling, finding enough time to review material and practice. I'm reading CFA books. Should I go over again? Well, there's no point in doing for the 4th time what you did 3 times. If you have a subscription on our site, I recommend that you register for the seminars that I'll be having so that you can start thinking about the content in a different way. Starting to look at it in a new way, to see, not just to see it in terms of this, okay, and this, the memorization of what things are, but the interplay among things and how, that they're for every, well, let me see if I can think of a good example here. When we talk about, immunization, for example, it would be interesting to go through a real life example. And the best real life example that we have is Britain, when the 30-year went absolutely crazy, and what happened there, and what they were trying to get done. When you understand that, suddenly the whole idea of using derivatives to close a gap starts to make sense, because you think, yeah, I better have a liquidity backup if I have that going on, because that happens. And that's the danger that could happen when I'm immunizing. Maybe I don't want to immunize. Like, immunization is a choice. It's not a requirement. It's a choice. And immunization in no way guarantees that you can pay that liability in the future. There is this belief that if I'm immunized, great, I can pay my liability. That's not what immunization is doing. All it's doing is saying, we're going to protect your assets from interest rate changes that would change the value of the assets differently than those of the liabilities, do nothing more to interest rate changes. Well, most pension funds have their assets in equities, alternative investments. Can't immunize. You're not really immunizing all of that stuff. So when we start thinking about the role that immunization plays and how it gets done, you could start to see that unless you have a pure fixed income portfolio with assets and liabilities fairly close, you're introducing a whole level of risk using those derivatives that you better understand, right? When we start discussing it, the whole body of it starts to come into better focus, right? It's so stale on the pages without a story behind it. Your videos again. Oh, the same question. Or focus on practice. How can I improve my process? Okay, well, I've answered that. Doing L3 third time, did everything properly the second time, and get a super close to MPS. What do you recommend the third time? Without having one-on-one discussions of what you mean. What do you mean when you say I did everything right the second time? You got super close to the MPS. Yeah, so you're going to do it again. I don't know. You could be spending way too much time on the structure response. You could be writing essays. You could be spending your time teaching the answer instead of telling the answer. It could be something in that. It's not enough to know what I would recommend to do differently unless I know what you've done the first time, right? If you're starting your career in finance now, what realm would you go into? Oh, that's a good question. Probably equities, probably there. If I were starting now, I don't know that I would know, but knowing what I know now, what advice, if somebody were starting in their career and I had to pick sectors that were going to be interesting, I would say that home building and mining are probably going to define this decade in the U.S., home building in the U.S. and mining globally. I would say you definitely want to be there, and you're going to want to be in tech somewhere. I don't know where, but in tech somewhere. AI, I think, probably has the best advantage because I think it can be used in so many different. I can see the use cases for AI very, very clearly across a whole bunch of organizations. I can't see the use case for crypto. Now, look how fast AI is moving. Look how absolutely fast it's moving, and the applications and the use cases we're hearing about on a daily basis. Crypto's been around for what, 10 years? What's the use case? Get on with it. If it can do this and there'll be smart money and smart contracts, and then, well, get on with it. AI, ChatGPT really showed up on everybody's conversational radar a couple of months ago, and look where it is. Look at all the use cases we have. Look how many companies are adopting it to use in this and use that. It's got a real use case. Crypto, 10 years. Oh, but we can do this and we'll do this, and well, get on with it. I mean, if you're going to do it, get on with it. Silicon Valley does not move this slowly. Believe me, that means there's nothing there. So what I would recommend is avoid the nonsense like crypto. But I think that AI is really, really going to matter for companies on a going forward basis in a very big way. So I think I would be in equities. I think it's probably, fixed income is interesting right now because things are changing, but at some point it's going to settle down. At some point, week over week, I won't be starting my weekly outlook with here are rates. Here's what the central bank is doing. Here's where the meeting is. Because after 6 months of being on hold, I'm going to say, what are we doing? They're going to be on hold for a while. Let's start with something else. Let's just accept that this is the structure of rates for a while, other than the occasional flattening and steepening of the long end of the curve. I think we're probably going to be on hold for a significant point in time. Then it'll start to get more interesting about, what sectors are interesting, what subsectors are interesting, what companies and what sectors are interesting. I've been pushing the home builders now for 6 months, talking about, how attractive it is. And even with this week's weekly outlook, you look at the performance over the last week of the home builders, unbelievable. Year to date, unbelievable. I think it's the best performing sector out there. And they have the perfect setup to continue on. High rates, which means there's low inventory. People aren't going to sell their homes at these levels. Well, home builders build homes. They can build a home to whatever dollar value you want to spend it to, and the margins are absolutely fantastic. There's a shortage of homes. You can't ask for a better environment. And D.R. Horton on Friday was threatening to make an all-time high. Think about that now, an all-time high. And we think, well, higher interest rates should kill the housing market, but it hasn't. It's just a beautiful environment. I think that continues on. I wish Canada had some big publicly traded home builders, because we have a major shortage, and we have a government that is very, very pro-immigration. There's no place for them. There are not enough homes in Canada. Let's see. Regarding the updates in CFA exam, do you think it will become harder? No. My honest opinion, having because I'm doing the content now for level 1, and I'll be moving on to level 2 after I'm done level 1 to get that ready, is that it is a lot of the technical detail is stripped out. If I got to give an honest opinion, it's been dumbed down. Sorry, CFAI, but it has been dumbed down compared to the rigor that was in it, rigor in terms of the depth of the content. Even 6-7 years ago, at least what I'm seeing at level 1, it has been dumbed down. So no, I don't think it's going to get harder. I can say that's making a distinction here. Let's make a distinction between what's in the content and how you're going to be tested on it. There's less content, less technical content. It's been streamlined. I call it dumbed down, but let's call it streamlined. But now it may give me the opportunity, because if I have this much content and I'm asking questions, I can't dive too deep. But if I have this much content, I now get to dive a little bit deeper on my questions. So perhaps it's like, well, here's less to learn, but you're going to have to know it better. Maybe there's that trade-off going there, that maybe it's better to give you less, but instead of, a mile wide and an inch deep, let's make it half a mile wide and a foot deep. Maybe you just have to go a little bit deeper on it. Opinion on all the dollarization hype. Well, you have it right there, hype. There's my answer right there. It is hype. It's just hype. In times of crisis, who do you want to lend your money to? The Chinese government, the Brazilian government, the Russian government, the Indian government, or the U.S. government? Who do you want hanging on to your money in times of fear, right? The idea that trade is de-dollarizing, okay, I got no problem with that. I don't see that as an issue. If I got to buy avocados from Mexico and we got to trade in U.S. dollars, I got to take my Canadian and buy the U.S. dollar. I got to give the Mexican company the U.S. dollar. They got to sell their U.S. dollars to buy the peso. So the U.S. dollar will be bought. A couple days later, the U.S. dollar will be sold. Or more likely is I will hold an amount of U.S. dollars all the time. And the Mexican company will hold an amount of U.S. dollars all the time, because a certain amount of our trade is done in U.S. dollars. So we'll just hold it. So I don't know that trade actually affects too much. Trade is slow. And when we look at the effect on the dollar, it's capital flows that matter more than trade flows. So who cares? Who really cares? I don't think that it threatens the reserve status of the U.S. dollar at all. I don't think it's a thing. Let's see. How do you feel about the deflated value of the CFA? I don't know that there's a deflated value, so I don't know how to answer that one. You're sort of asking me how I feel about your opinion of the CFA. When you say the deflated value, is that, I don't think that's a statement of fact. That's a statement of opinion, and you're asking me how I feel about your statement of opinion. I'd have to ask more about why. Why do you think that is the case? What's the difference between TPPC and PPC? Um, I'm not doing a level 2 tutorial here. I'm going to pass on that. ChatGPT said you have a CFA. ChatGPT can't answer a lot of questions. I'm writing level 3 in August. I have been reading the curriculum. Well, hang on a sec. ChatGPT says I have one? Who am I to argue with the robot? Who am I to argue with the math? I've just been given an honorary CFA. I'll take it. Let's see if I start putting the words, the letters behind my name, if CFAI has something to say about it. Maybe they should just give me an honorary charter and be done with it, for God's sake, right? That would be kind of cool. GPT Finance is sick, does better reports a lot faster. What do you think? I don't know. I haven't tried to get it to do that. So, I mean, I don't know that it does or doesn't. I'm writing L3 in August. I've been reading the curriculum and watching your videos. Any more tips? No. I mean, no. This is not your first rodeo. You know what you're doing. I could not able to find a job at 43. Still, is it worth to retake exam 4 times on hope? Well, here we have to start thinking about a couple of things. This is a deeper question than just me saying, no, get right back at it. If you're not locating a job, there's an issue with your presentation of your experience, who you are, and what you have to offer. If you have level 2 behind you, you're still looking to get level 3. That having, instead of 2 sticks, you have 3 sticks. CFA level stick, that you've got that behind you. I don't know that makes much of a difference in your first problem. So I think those are 2 different problems you have here. Is what is it with your presentation of who you are? What is it in the market that you're in that's causing that problem? And retaking an exam on hope? No, I think it would be a ridiculous thing to say I'm going to do it again on hope. No, you do it on strategy, not on hope. You don't write it again hoping that you're going to do it. Hope is a terrible strategy. Right? Hope is great when you say, I hope there's a heaven. That sounds nice, but I'm not going to live my life thinking there's one, but I really hope there is. I mean, I hope there is. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I get to see my dog again. That's if my dog wants to see me, but I get to see my dog. I hope there is. I don't believe there is, but I hope. That's where hope comes in. But to say, I hope the applied series is successful. No, that's a terrible. I hope GM goes up. Not terrible strategy. You have to make it happen. Hope. Get hope out of your life. Hope is just something you say when you don't want to put in the work. I hope I win the lottery. I hope this happens to me. I hope that girl comes over and talks to me. Head over and talk to her, right? Why not just take it? Shirley Uday said, but why? Like, again, I mean, I'm sure I can get my GED. I'm sure I could get my high school equivalency. Why not go and write my GED? Why? Why would I do it? What would be the point? There is redundancy other than just having bragging rights or sticking something on the wall and say, look, there's another trophy. By the way, I never put any of my degrees up because I've done them good enough. I don't need them hanging as trophies for people to see. It matters where you put things and what you do. So it for me it doesn't hold the same meaning for me. It would not affect anything that I do. For you in the real world, it's going to matter because you're signaling to the world that you know this. I don't need to signal to anybody at this point in time that I know this. It would be redundant. So, I did think about it once, going, well, why don't I just do it? I mean, it's not a big deal, but why? It was the why that just didn't make sense for me. Any tips for someone just starting in private wealth management? Private wealth management is heavy relationships. It is a lot of meeting a lot of people, and it could be 3, 4 years before they do anything with you. But it's always a matter of networking as much as you can. Um, avoiding the urge to close the deal the day you meet someone, and it's just introducing yourself. Here's what I do. Here's my card, and they'll know you as the person who does this. At some point, if they need a wealth manager, and you're in the same clubs they're in, if you're on the same committees they're on in town, if you volunteer at the same charities that they volunteer at, then it just becomes natural. But it's a relationship business, and you want to open as many relationships as you possibly can. Not a CFA question, but did you get skiing in the season? No. What snow? What snow? There's no snow, and I'm in southern Ontario. I'd have to travel quite a ways to a ski hill, so no snow. Next winter, I think I might actually Airbnb or Verbo some place on a ski hill for a couple of months and just do my work from there, because I can do my work from anywhere in the world. Maybe I'll do that. You get a hell of a lot more than just CFA from your teachings, life lessons peppered in there too. Good. That's age and wisdom, reaching back through the years to, there's always that saying, if you could go back, would you? Well, only if I know what I know now, because I'm not going to take the chance that I end up on a different path. And I can't go back, but what I can do is I can send my knowledge back through the years to somebody who's 25, my wisdom, and maybe it helps you. I don't know. Do you suggest us to improve any programming skills and learn any new one? Yeah, I think it's worth learning some programming skills only to be a better consumer of it, only so that you can have an easier ability to talk with those who actually do things, because coders and programmers and software engineers have a particular language that they like to speak, and words to them mean certain things, and you want to at least be able to speak to them in their language, and not in lines of code, but understanding exactly what it is that they're doing. So yeah, I do think it's worth having some programming skills. Is it worth it learning to the point where you no longer need anybody to do it for you? I don't know. Have you tried to use ChatGPT to generate questions for L3 exam? Yeah, I did. I thought, let's see if they can do this. No way. The setup takes so long to get them to do certain things, and there's a nuance sometimes in the question that I want that I can't get out. So no. No. But you go ahead. You try to see if it can generate questions. Let's see. I just lost where all the questions are. Let's see. I like aviation. Well, you've got Boeing, you've got Airbus, lots there. I'm retaking level 3 exam for the third time in August. I scored above the average on the question bank on your site and did well on the mock exams. Any suggestions on how I should attack the August exams? Use all of the live features we have. Use the seminar series that we'll have for the multiple DNPs. Use the office hours. Use the mock exams. Use those. That's my recommendation for that. Most definitely. Just finished a 4-year economics and finance degree at Laurier. The value you gain from it is 100% up to your effort, how well you study, and what path electives you choose. There we go. Good. Advice for someone to prepare for level 3 after passing level 2. I think I've given quite a bit of that. The advice is that make sure that you start thinking in higher levels, and you can read up on Bloom's taxonomy, BLOOM, Bloom's taxonomy, so that you understand exactly what that means. And there are a number of different, if you ask example questions based on Bloom's taxonomy, there is a good PDF that will give you an example of the types of questions that are asked at each of the levels and the types of keywords that are used. So that gives you an idea that when you're studying, it's not enough to remember something, that you have to start thinking, well, what if the question were phrased like this or like this or like this? So it gives you like 10 or 15 typical types of prompts for questions that could be asked that test that level of knowledge. I think that's a good PDF. A quote that motivates you. Oh, so many. And it really depends on the mood that I happen to be in, or what I'm thinking. When you're asked to come up with one on the spot, it's almost impossible. But in a moment, sometimes, you can remember something that sort of helps you. I think the one that I probably refer to the most, or the one that I probably say to myself the most, is, and I use it in a slightly different context than Hamlet would have used it, is, if you're thinking, oh, should I do this? Should I not do this? And when you're debating, I got to do this, but I don't feel like doing this. I always think of the to be or not to be. And what he was asking himself at that point was whether he was going to do something about it or shut the hell up, right? Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. In other words, okay, this is what I got to put up with it. Or, right, to take up arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing thereby end them. And it's that dichotomy, it's like, I know I need to do this to get to where I want to go. I got to get through this, but maybe you don't have the motivation to get to it, but it's, so I don't think about it in terms of, I'm laboring over something that I don't want to do. I think, okay, well, either I'm going to do it or not. Okay. But I'm not going to sit around saying I should do this. I should do this. As soon as I say I should, then do it or shut up. And I have that inner conversation with myself. So I always think about that, either you're going to do it or you're not. Either you're going to be or you're not going to be, but pick something, right? And I always find that it is not nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. It is always more nobler to take up arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them. Don't you think? Right? But it depends on what I'm doing and how I feel about things. Sometimes a line from a poem means more. Sometimes a philosopher means more at the time. Shakespeare always seemed to have the best lines, though. Excited for your upcoming investment series. Even my wife said she'd consider foregoing reality TV to join. Excellent. In the future, autonomous vehicles will take over. Okay, if you say so. The main selection criteria for consumers will be safety. Do you think the company's not focusing on software or making a mistake? Why should the company have to focus on software? Why do we think that it's going to be the vehicle's software that does it? I don't think that's the answer at all. I think the answer is a smart grid, is sensors everywhere. Not the car trying to figure out what's going on, but as soon as you have a critical mass of cars on the road with sensors, then those sensors talk to each other. As soon as cell phone makers start having a feature on their mode, you have airplane mode. Well, you can take it off of airplane mode. Have pedestrian mode, right? So that if all the phones are on pedestrian mode, as a car's driving down a road, it can sense everybody carries their bloody phone with them. It can sense all of the pedestrians. Okay, all these people are on pedestrian mode. The lines on the road, the lights, all of them on sensors. That's the answer. Then you don't need such intensive software to try to figure out, is that a bloody cat or is that just a green garbage bag blowing across the road, because I have confused a green garbage bag blowing across the road for a cat before, and I hit the brakes because I didn't want to hit the cat. Turns out I saved a green garbage bag's life. I'm that kind of guy. So I don't know that it's software that's going to do it. I think this idea of trying to get your software that's better than this guy's software and better than their software, I think that's the wrong answer. I think the right answer is, let's just throw sensors on everything. There you go, and you're done. You're done. There's safety right there. So I think there might be a lot of what's a good word for this, abandoned assets in all of the investment that's made company by company by company by company getting this done. When we start thinking about, well, why not just throw sensors everywhere and be done with it? Hey, there you go. And that's at least a generation to go. But I don't know that autonomous vehicles are near. That's just me. But I just don't think so. If one expects a recession and the Fed to cut significantly, what's the best and the most leveraged way to express that view? Eurodollar futures? Yeah. But if one doesn't have access to that, futures on the 2-year? No, not on the 2-year, because it has very low duration. So sure, yields may drop and the 2-year may drop, but since it has such very low duration, the upside isn't really that great on it. The 30-year, the ultra 30-year, but with futures, you got to keep rolling them over. TLT probably seems to be about the best. And I think if what I'm going to be doing this week, if I get a nice opportunity to get a lower price in the $7 range, I'm going to be buying 50 contracts on top of the 60 I have, but 50 for the March 105 calls on TLT. Nice long duration. Sorry. Can't believe I said that. Nice high duration. Duration is a measure of sensitivity, not a measure of time. Nice high duration, not long duration. Advice for somebody who failed 3 times but did spend 300 hours. I've given a lot of it over the course of this video, and I think that if you are on our site, the seminar series is probably going to be the one that you would want. Answer to why no CFA reminds me of Milton Friedman answering about him not being a sociologist and him saying, if I get cancer, I want an oncologist to help me, not someone who had cancer. Well, yeah, that's a good one. Should I register in August intake? Should I register in August and February? Or do you mean or February? I guess I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure why I keep failing. I feel like I know the stuff. And I bet you do know the stuff. That's the thing. So when I say that I don't think people fail this exam, I say that in the sense that if they studied the way they did for level 1 and level 2, and if the exam were written in that style, you would pass. You feel like you know the stuff. I think you do know the stuff. But you may not know how to answer the question in an evaluate and create way, but you may know how to answer it in an application and analysis way. So you're answering it at that point, but the answer, the structured response answer, needs this answer up here, and you're just not making that extra leap. That's fixable, right? What do you think about the startups facing winter cycles and continuously burning VC money in order to gain users, but later on monetize it? Do you believe this? The startups facing winter cycles and continuously burning VC money in order to gain users to later on monetize it. Do you believe in this ecosystem, or is it a bubble? I don't know what we're referring to here, so I'm going to pass on that one. Just wondering if we can have a package in your website for only the review videos. No, we don't break anything out. We don't separate anything. Our price point is extremely accessible. When you look at what we offer, for what our competition offers. And we really, really, truly only have one competitor in terms of size. We think we're better, but in terms of size, we really only have one competitor. When you look at our price versus that competitor, we are far, far more accessible by a mile. That to start breaking things out it doesn't make a lot of sense from my perspective. I don't want you studying from the review videos. I want you reviewing from the reviews, not studying from them, because they take no time to explain things. They simply review. And being that the curriculum is shifting to the modular approach, the review videos are going to disappear because the modules are so small and condensed. Most of the work in the modules are the example walkthroughs. The content part of it is so thin anyways that if I were to do review videos, it's, well, how much do I take out of how much that has already been taken out? It's hard to take out anything more. So the review videos, unfortunately, because the curriculum is evolving, the review videos are simply going to go extinct. They cannot adapt to this changing environment because there is nothing to précis. There's nothing to condense. It is already condensed, which I think is a good step forward. Having many more examples and less narration, I think is a good step. It benefits the quality sites that can actually fill in all of the holes in the teaching that the curriculum now leaves out. So it presents you with a lot of stuff, but it leaves out a lot of the technical detail. But sometimes to gain a good understanding, it's, well, I really wish I would have had that technical detail. So I think we sort of have an advantage there on that one. Maybe our competitors would push back and say, oh, I know this stuff too. Not as well as I do. Let's see. Do you think EV investments will go down the drain for some companies if safety is an issue for autonomous vehicles? Again, I think that's part of the same question. Let's see. Thanks for everything you're doing. You're welcome. Thank you. I'm following 5 years so far. Great job, materials. Great. Is AI deflationary? That's a good question. Almost all technology is deflationary. That's really been the deflationary push since the late 90s. The internet, I think, it took a while to get its paces, but it was deflationary. Globalization was deflationary as well, but not as much as technology. Technology really did a great job there. Is AI deflationary? If I can use AI in my business to augment the work of a researcher, that a researcher doesn't need an assistant now. I train them on AI, and they can use AI to generate a lot of that background stuff the researcher was. I can lower my costs. The question is, am I going to pass that along through lower margins, or is it just going to be an opportunity for me to get better margins? You see, is it margin expansionary or is it deflationary? I don't know. Our company is going to take the opportunity to compete more aggressively on price because of this, or are they going to take the opportunity to increase their margins and their share value because of this? It's a good question. And I think we're so early in this that I don't have an answer for that. I can say this. It's probably not inflationary. I think we can say it's probably not inflationary. I don't think a pandemic shuts it down. I don't think there's supply chain issues with AI. Once you have it implemented, I think you've got it. I don't think it calls in sick. I don't think it joins a union. I don't think it does any of that stuff. The other side of it is, well, what if it does replace humans? What if 3.5% unemployment is the golden age, and we're living in that now. And in 7 years, 7.5% unemployment will be considered the best we can do because AI is doing it. And in every society, you have a distribution of abilities. And if you are building a society, a cohesive society, and you don't think about a place for people in the left tail, you're going to have a problem at some point. And I think that maybe we've gotten to the problems we are in Western societies is because maybe we went too long without thinking about what place we have for individuals that cannot adapt to the changes in technology. And there is that distribution where maybe you get to a form of capitalism which by its very nature excludes the left tail, 10% in the left tail, because of, well, let's just say it, cognitive limitations. I mean, we all clearly can see that there's a distribution of that. That's an interesting question. What do you do with the displaced who cannot perform in another area? Right? This was the whole issue behind. I think it was the weaving machines in Denmark. The thought was they would replace workers, so workers threw their shoes into the machines, those wooden shoes, those sabots into the machine, hence the term sabotage, right? You have some people calling for a halt to AI now. It is a good question. Is AI deflationary? It's not inflationary. Is it deflationary or is it margin expansionary? Is it an employment creator or is it an employment destroyer? If it's an employment destroyer, it's going to be deflationary, not because the AI is deflationary, only because fewer consumers. It's going to be tougher to increase your margins when you have to compete for a smaller and smaller market. You could have a debate on that. That's a good question. It would be really helpful if you could do one-on-one for individual. And well, it would. I agree. It would. It's that unfortunately, one human, 24 hours, 8 hours sleep upstairs, 16 hours, and I got a whole bunch of stuff I got to get done. I just don't have the bandwidth as being one individual to get that done. I would like to. Believe me, I would like nothing more than to take all of these multiple DMPs and say, I know you can do it. Here's what we're going to do. If I had the time to do it, I would, but one person. So I have to find ways to get scale out of this. So doing them in seminars where you have, not 100 people show up, but somewhere around 20 to 25, something manageable, then I think that is the best way to leverage the least amount of time I have. Do you think is a lot to spend 8 hours a day studying level 2? 8 hours in one stretch, yeah, I think it is. But if you break it up across 3-4 different sessions, no, not really. Put in an hour, hour and a half, head to the gym, come back, put in an hour, hour and a half, take an hour off, make a nice lunch, salad. Don't eat anything heavy because you're just going to fall asleep, right? Break it up during the course of the day, sure. Just want to know if there's more case study that we could find in level 3. Well, there are 3 case studies, right? I'm not sure how these cases are helping at the moment. There is some teaching in the case study, and I do my best to separate that from the case study itself. I don't read the whole case study to you because you can read yourself, but I highlight certain parts and then we answer certain questions. I don't have an opinion on the case studies. I don't know if they're there for you to see the application at a higher level across a number of different readings on one case study, or if there's testable content in them. They do introduce new ideas and new concepts in the case studies. So I imagine that, well, why would you introduce something new if this was just to show a holistic view of these four readings and how it holistically comes together in a case? Why introduce new stuff? You're introducing new stuff, so this must be a distinct learning objective that you have in mind. Maybe next time I talk with a CFAI contact, I'll ask for a little bit more clarity on exactly what are the roles of the case studies. Rocky Mountain got lots of snow. Come to Calgary. Yeah, I actually was looking at moving to Calgary 2 years ago when property prices were just like really low. And my tax rate, believe it or not, my overall tax rate would drop by 5%. At my level of income, that ends up being a significant amount of money. And I thought about Calgary. I really gave it some thought, and it's not outside of my realm of possibility at this point, because I think the mountain range is only like 45-minute hour drive west to hit the ski slopes. There was one area I was looking at, but it had all septic and it had no city sewer, so it was all septic. And once you start getting out into those environments, it's a question about internet connection. It's a question about water pressure when you got septic and septic systems and cisterns for your water. Forget about water pressure. That's just gone. Unsatisfying showers forever. I forget the name of the region. It had two words, Rocky something, or I forget what it was called, but I was looking at houses there, but I didn't make the choice. Thank you for all your help. If we plan on going to an MBA after becoming CFA, is it still worth concentrating in finance? I'd say enough is enough, right? Why take the same thing 10 times? Which is, when I say a CFA for me would be redundant, because it would be redundant. If you have an undergrad that had a major in finance, you have the CFA, why do the same thing yet again? Expand, do a general MBA that sets you up for management positions, a more managerial MBA as opposed to a specialized in finance. That would be my suggestion. Now you have managerial ability, you're promotable. Not only do you have domain knowledge, but you have general knowledge as well. I think you take a generalist degree and a specialist degree and combine them. I think those are a lot better. So no, I don't know that I would do more of the same, because it would be like, well, what's the point, right? You already know it. What would be the point? I'm not very well in the last month with my ES trade. As market just keeps going up, but I do hold on to it. If I apply level 3 behavior topic, am I biased on my view? No, holding a position if you believe in your analysis is not a biased view. What you can do is you can sell puts against your ES. So if you have ES at, let's say, 4,100, sell a 4,100 put against it, which would reduce your exposure. It reduces your downside gain if it falls. If you're short ES and the market falls, you would have done very well. But right now you're more worried about the market going up. So sleep well at night and say, well, I'll take a smaller gain in exchange for a higher break even. You just trade off. So I wouldn't wait to move your delta towards zero. I mean, if you can sell a put and move your delta down to 0.5, move your delta down, right? I mean, I do that. Why are you bullish GM? If there's a recession, wouldn't that negatively affect GM? I don't know. The level of vehicle production has not returned to pre-pandemic levels. I think what's the 17.5 million run rate in the US is still sitting around 13.5, 14.5. Recessionary levels are 13, 12.5 to 13. You're already just slightly above recessionary levels and there are no deals on car lots. My truck now is 8 years old. I want a new one, but there are no deals. There are no deals. So I'm going to wait. I don't know if I'll ever get a deal, but I'd rather wait because I don't drive that much. So, I'm okay with it. So it's full margin. Dealers are not giving dealer incentives in September like they used to. So they've got full margin. And GM, I think, is positioned very well. And they're at the lower end of the trading range they've been in. They're trading now for, I think, 3.5 times forward free cash flow. 3.5 times forward free cash flow. How much cheaper can you make it? It's not that I'm bullish on GM. It's a conditional. At this price, I'm bullish on GM. If Tesla were $10 a share, I'd be wildly bullish on Tesla, even though I'm bearish on their price right now, right? So it's a conditional. I'm bullish conditional on its valuation. Okay, let's see. Where did we leave off here? We're almost at the end here. I am a corporate lawyer with a focus on M&A. I don't have much of a finance background, but 13 years of M&A. Thoughts on whether this is enough to get my charter? I think there's a difference between the legal stuff that you do and the overlap with CFA. M&A's not a big overlap with CFA. However, if you are looking to get into the finance field, having 13 years of legal M&A behind you and some finance experience really starts to make you an attractive target. So if you're going to get your charter, don't think of it as, well, getting the 3 letters. Think of it as, I'm going to start with level 1. Let me start down the pathway. Let me get level 1 behind me. You'll gain some knowledge, and no one can ever take that away from you. Even if you don't decide to go any further, at least you've learned that that's not the path you want to go down. So I would say, as I said earlier, to be or not to be. Are you going to do it or are you not going to do it? If you're going to do it, then get on with it. If you're not going to do it, then move past it. But yeah, if finance is pulling you, then sure, I think it's a great pathway in, and it's something you don't have to complete. You can start down that path, and maybe you get a job, and maybe from that job you decide that I don't need the rest of it. I'm good where I am. What if, just if, U.S. government defaults on their debt? What part of the curve will be impact? All of it. What part of the curve? All of it. All of it. Favorite philosopher other than Nietzsche? That's a good one. That is a good one. And we're talking about philosophers, so we're actually really talking about somebody who is that and not just philosophical in what they do, because I think that Shakespeare had such a great grasp of the human condition that you find a lot of meaning in what he writes about, a lot of wisdom, I think, but not a lot of philosophy. Probably Schopenhauer, sort of a dark fella in that sense, but yeah, probably Schopenhauer. Not too into the Greeks, although if I had to pick a Greek, it would be Aristotle above all the others, because he just seemed to be a lot more real world. I liked his whole concept of describing the world as it is, not the world as it should be, but the world as it is. That is your starting place for everything. Because when you describe it as it should be, well, whose should be is it? Is it your should be or my should be? What if our should be's are different, right? So yeah. Let's follow up to my earlier question on whether your videos are sufficient for level 3. What I also meant to ask was whether you would recommend reading text in addition to your videos. Yeah, absolutely. Read it. Absolutely. I think you'll find that if you watch the video and then do the reading, you'll be able to read it quicker, and you'll catch little sentences in there that connect things that when I do a video, I can't possibly repeat every single sentence. So I've got to take the major theme and draw a story through the theme. But you may listen to the video, go, okay, I think I get that. But as you're reading, a nice careful reading, you get to a point you go, that clicks in place, this clicks in place, that things click in place. Yes, I would definitely suggest that if you have the time for it. Any idea why did they stop giving bifurcation of the results of SR and M? Well, yeah, that is a good question. I don't know why. I don't know why. That's a question for a CFAI. I don't know why. Say 128 days to study starting now. Would you recommend just attacking questions right away and filling in the gaps with the videos? No. I would not recommend doing questions right away and then filling in the gaps. Because what if you get the questions right and you don't go back to the reading because you think, okay, I got this. Do you? Or did you just get lucky on some of the questions? You got 7 out of 10, but 3 you got lucky on and you guessed and you really got 4 out of 10, right? No, I don't recommend testing to see if you should read. I don't recommend that at all. It's not the way I would do it. Let's see. Presently a fixed income advisor. I've always fantasized about being a bond trader. You and I have very different fantasies when we fantasize. I'll tell you that right now. What insight would you have? Oh, you're a fixed income advisor moving into trading. Speak up. Wherever you work, speak up. Say that's what you want to do. If there is no role where you work, then you have to make that decision. Again, the to be or not to be, right? What is it that you want to do? And rather than hoping or thinking about, take action. The very first step to take action is speaking up. Hey, I want this. I really want to do this. What's my pathway? And if somebody says, well, that pathway doesn't lie here for you, then say, well, okay, you're going to start looking somewhere else then, because or suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, right? So just start, speak up. What are some examples of tech being deflationary? Big screen TVs are a good example. Plasma TVs, 20-inch plasma TV in the mid-90s was 20 grand. Now they don't even make them because nobody buys plasma anymore. I mean, once they got to like $50, they got thrown out. Every generation of TV got cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to the point now where they're so bloody cheap. You could buy now for $600 what 10 years ago would have been $5,000. And go look at the $5,000 TVs at Best Buy now and go back in 5 years, they'll be $500. Look at computers, look at laptops, look at almost anything in the tech space has gotten cheaper and cheaper. How much do you pay for your email service? Remember when you used to send letters? How much did that cost? Well, you don't do that anymore. You get your bills online for free. You don't have to pay anything there. You don't send a check in the mail anymore. There's no check fees at all on your account. You can do e-transfers. You can do all sorts of transferring money in the economy today. The internet allows you to buy anything, anywhere, anytime of the day. You can price comparison shop in no time. You can find the cheapest flights, the cheapest hotels, the cheapest vacations in an instant. You can learn anything you want online without ever having to leave your house. You could do a whole university degree online without leaving your city, leaving your house, leaving your job. My God, tech is massively, massively deflationary, right? At some point, will we get out of inversion? Yes, you will. And what we'll be looking at is a sign that this is happening, the curve uninverting. Will you be adding duration? Already have duration. If so, how long? 10, 20, 30. Is there a trade with the 2-year as well? No trade with the 2-year. More interested in, if I trade futures, it's always on the 30. Don't touch the 20. It's odd. The 20 is an odd tenor. They don't have a very big maturity client, and there's not much value in the 20. The 10's used a lot, and the 30's used a lot because it's used. There's a lot of risk management in the 10 and the 30. Not a lot in the 20. There's so much more volume in the 10's and the 30's. You buy the actual bonds to hedge liabilities, or you use the actual futures to hedge assets. So there's a lot more activity there. What would I be looking at as a sign of the curve uninverting? Something breaking at this point, or some big geopolitical event. Yeah, those two things. But just hoping that inflation goes down, the Fed's going to cut rates. That's not going to happen. If the economy remains strong and inflation goes down, the Fed's going to say full employment, check. Price stability, check. There's our neutral rate. Our neutral rate looks like it's 5% because now we've got both of our mandates satisfied and rates are at 5%. That must be the neutral rate, and that's where we will stay. They're not going to cut rates unless in getting to price stability, you lose full employment. And you lose full employment fast. That's not happening. So rates cutting are not happening. So a curve uninversion is not going to happen on that basis. Okay, I got a couple more left. Humans will adapt. Same questions were asked about the internet. Yeah, humans will adapt, I imagine. But we've never had a technology that could actually do the cognitive work of a human. We have had technology that has done the mechanical work of a human, especially repetitive mechanical. We've also gotten rid of repetitive cognitive. I mean, you don't have bookkeepers anymore. You really don't. Software sort of runs all of that now. Your a whole POS system, all the way from inventory to sale to generating your statements. You don't need bookkeepers anymore. That's a whole industry that's gone because that was repetitive cognitive. But what AI has the real potential to do is to eliminate non-repetitive cognitive. So robots have always had a difficult time with the non-repetitive stuff, the non-repetitive mechanical or the non-repetitive cognitive, but now they're starting to do that. That was very different than the internet. The internet wasn't replacing the non-repetitive cognitive. It was just, reducing or shrinking the size of the world. It really did a lot on shrinking distance. But this AI really has the potential to move away from just the repetitive stuff that we've already eliminated and into that non-repetitive stuff. How likely is CDS going to be tested in depth? I would say that it's fair game. There's a whole reading at level 3 on corporate bond portfolios, and you can either add bonds or you can add. Most corporate bond portfolios usually try to isolate the spread. So you would be long the corporate bond, short the treasury to isolate the spread. And if you do that, you lever up big time. That's the whole idea behind like a mortgage REIT. The other way to get that kind of leverage is just in the CDS, because the CDS is the bet on the spread, right? So I imagine it's going to be tested in depth. I don't know about in depth, but certainly tested. I can't see why it wouldn't. It's a big enough topic. The elected officials with extreme views seem to be the result of poorly informed voters. Yep. What's your opinion with regard to ways to increase voter awareness? Well, first of all, I think you can fix this problem very, very simply. You would say you can only call yourself a news organization if you don't take advertising dollars. That means that take CBC and the National. The National can't be a profit center. The National must be a cost center. And there, I think you can get a lot of the bias out of media in that sense. It's when it's for profit You have to start thinking about the viewer experience, not the viewer education, not telling them things that they may not want to hear, but you have to think about the viewer experience. And so you end up telling them things they want to hear. You end up telling them stories in the light in which they would nod and say, yeah, yeah, we are the good guys. They're the bad guys, right? We are. Hey, I like what they're saying here. Everyone come and listen. And it brings you deeper and deeper into that rabbit hole because, well, I need your eyeballs. And I don't only need your eyeballs, I need engagement. And if I need engagement, the best way to get engagement is polarization. I got to get you angry. That's the best way to get engagement, is to get you angry. That's the problem with media today. Media disinforms. Media, yeah, disinforms more than anything else. You end up with an uninformed electorate because the media itself, the news organization, was more interested in the metrics to sell to the advertisers, which is eyeballs and engagement. That's what works, eyeballs and engagement. And I can't get you engaged on hope, not for long, but I can get you engaged with anger. For a very long time, I can get you engaged with anger. And that's what they do. The left make you absolutely angry with the right by giving you the worst examples of what the Republicans do. And the right get you upset with the Democrats by giving you the worst examples of what Republicans do. It's in neither one of them's interest to tell you who's coming together and working on bills that are centrist. Where's the money in that? Where's the money in that? There's no money in that. That doesn't get you angry. It says, okay, well, that's pretty good. No. The left have to tell you that guns are killing you, and the right has to tell you they're coming for your guns. I mean, there's a middle ground, right? But there's no money in the middle ground. Even though the majority of people are in the middle, there's no money. So yeah, you're going to get more and more extreme politicians because you have more and more extreme broadcasts with more and more polarization. And my side thinks that to counter your side, I need this crazy guy over here that's willing to do this stuff. And because I do this, you need that crazy person willing to answer. And so you have this coevolution. And when you look in biology, what coevolution means is that if you take a hunter and a hunted, they will, over time, the hunter will get stronger, the hunted will get faster because of natural selection, right? Is the hunter will hunt and usually kill the weakest of the herd, and only the strongest and the fastest reproduce, thereby creating a faster herd. And the predator that's not strong enough will die off, and only the fastest, strongest predators can catch those. So you have this coevolution between the species. And this is what you're having right now, is this coevolution of insanity. Is each side is an echo of the other. I will say that without the rise of the left, you never would have had the rise of the right. Without the left, Trump never would have won. Trump won because of the left, because of the excesses of the left. Cut off the right tail, the left tail will rise to supremacy at this point. Cut off the left tail, I think the right tail dies. Because there's a lot of insanity going on that you can't even believe we live in the world where these kinds of decisions are being made anymore. And I think there's a misunderstanding between the two sides about who the electorate really is. It's not the fringes, it's the middle. But the real enemy here, and I got to agree with Trump on this one, the real enemy is the media, because they're in it for the money. And the money is about getting you angry and keeping you angry at the other side. And politicians also know this as well. A lot of politicians say stupid things, not because they're stupid, but because they think you're stupid. And I can't tell you to vote for me, but I can certainly get you angry at that person over there, and you'll vote for me by default. Why should I campaign for your vote when I could just keep you angry at the other side? So we have a group of really sick politicians who feed on this. As sick as Iago was, remember the villain Iago in not Merchant of Venice, in Othello, that played on Othello's weakness by just feeding poison into his ear? And this is what our politicians are, very Iago-like, by feeding poison into your ear about what the other side is doing and thinking, and keeping you angry at the other side so that you vote for these extreme idiots that have no respect for you. You're just a means to an end for their power. They are sick human beings. Why we respect them, I don't know. Why we allow it to continue on, I don't know. But many things have to happen at the same time. Media has to become nonprofit. In other words, you're a broadcaster, you're NBC. If you want your broadcasting license, you must run your news organization as a cost center. You cannot sell any advertising on your news. That will take the bias out, because now I'm not concerned about views and clicks and eyeballs and engagement. Now I can get back to Walter Cronkite. Now I can get back to Pulitzer. Now I can get back to reporting the facts as they are and leaving all the editorial bullshit out of it. We don't have news. We have opinions. We have opinion channels. There's no news. There's no news. There's no news. There are no politicians. There are clowns. This is where we are. And the only way to end it is, like anything, get the money out of it. And yeah, I think media is a big part of the misinformation campaign out there, a huge part of misinformation. CNN, probably one of the worst. Most people think, well, maybe Fox News is the worst. No, CNN is far worse for misinformation. Fox News is up there as well. MSNBC, same thing. In Canada, CBC. You want to be misinformed, watch the CBC. Watch the National. It's just misinformation. Good case in point, when the trucker convoy hit Ottawa, if you watched YouTube, you had a whole bunch of people walking around with their cameras and their gimbals and recording what was going on. And what CBC did was they walked around till they found the worst example of what was going on, the worst activity, and they put that on as this is what it's all about. This one thing, this person waving a Nazi flag. They did not film the part where all the truckers from the trucker convoy came over and almost beat the crap out of them, and chased them away. They didn't put that on. No, they just put the Nazi flag waving guy on and said, this is what's going on in the streets of Ottawa. And it wasn't. It was just a lie. This is our media. This is what we have. This is what we have. It exists because I think we accept it. Democracy, I think, is very, very broken. I think that media is probably one of the biggest reasons why we have this level of misinformation. And there it is, right? Let's see. You should post your quotes and thoughts on websites instead of general quotes. Yeah, I do have a couple of mine up there. There's one, hey, Bert, that's Ernie. I think that is profound. I think there's another one I have up. What was it? I don't know. I forget it. It was a funny one, but I don't recognize things that I say as being deep when I say them, because they just seem to me like common sense. So it doesn't occur to me that that's something I should say or something I should quote. And I think it might be just a little self-serving, but I mean, if you like some of the things I say, feel free to use them. Let's see. Failed level 3 times now and just don't know how to process anything and thinking of taking the test next year. Take some time off. Sometimes being away from something does allow you to reflect on it a little bit better. It's kind of like physical training as well, is sometimes being away from the gym for 3 or 4 weeks allows you to move past a plateau. So if you're ever at the gym and you hit this plateau where for a couple of months straight, you just don't seem to be getting any gains. Back away from it, move away, take 3 weeks off, come back. You'll start a little bit lower, but you'll break through that plateau. So whenever you find that you're plateauing in anything, even cognitively, step away from it, come back in a couple of weeks, and you'll find that, okay, well, I've forgotten a few things, but as you start to gain that momentum, you find that you can break through these plateaus that you've had previously. But yes, step away from it. That's fine. Step away from it for a time. How do you keep motivation going? Some readings seem not too easy to digest. Listen, nothing is more motivating than success. So don't look at the reading. Don't look at it. Look at one page. Look at one section. Section 1, and maybe there's 1.1, 1.2. Say 1.1. That's it. I am going to know section 1.1. Even if it takes you an hour, you just sit there and you work with it and you go through it and you think it through. And you know it so well, that feeling you get when you get it all. Don't try to get it all done. Just try to get a victory. Nothing is more addicting than success. Try this. Just to prove my point, try this. You all have to clean your houses. You all have to clean your apartment or whatever it is that you're in. You all have to clean. Nobody enjoys it. Nobody does. I don't know anyone who says, I can't wait to get up 6 a.m. I'm going to start here. I'm going to scrub this. I'm going to do. Okay, well, maybe there's some people who like that, but nobody likes that. Try this. Make a list and make everything one thing. I'm going to wash one glass. I'm going to pick up one thing. And when you're done, cross it off your list. Watch how addicting that becomes, because you have this long list and you have a whole bunch of small tasks during the course of the day. You cross it off. You're going to want to cross the next thing off, and you cross it off, and you're going to want to cross the next thing off. So make a list that is broken down into all of these little things that you can do in 5 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes, where you can get success after success after success. You get that dopamine rush each time. That's addicting. That becomes addicting. But when you have your target set, I'm going to complete this reading, and that's a day and a half away. It's a day and a half before you get a dopamine rush, before you get that check mark, before you get that success. The last half hour of the day, write out a list of what you're going to do tomorrow. Little tasks, just little tasks. Break them down into 10 or 15 little tasks, and then start your day. And watch how quickly you start crossing things off, because they're small things, but watch your attitude change during the day. You'll look at your list and you're going to want to cross the next thing off, and the next thing, and the next thing. And when you get it all done for the day, you go, I've done everything I said I would do today, right? Then you write out your list for the next day and the next day. And you keep doing that. And each time you could say, well, I don't need a dopamine rush every 5 minutes. Maybe I'll have tasks that take 15, 20 minutes each. And you slowly get that addiction. Nothing is more addicting than success. Build opportunities for multiple successes in your life every day. IB Terminal gave me a hard time for my computer. Just wondering what Apple computer you use. I got a 27-inch Mac. I mean, you can see how big the screen is here right now, right? You can see how big the screen is. I got a 27-inch Mac. I don't know what kind it is. I think they only make one. I think it all comes down to what chipset it has. I don't know. With a degree in finance from top 200. Okay. But with suboptimal GPA, any advice on becoming more marketable while and post attending CFA charter, given the highly competitive market? Well, when you say top 200, I don't know if you meant to type in top 20. If you meant to type in top 20, I don't know how you'd make yourself more marketable. But if you're in a top 200, you're way in tier 3. The charter is sort of the great equalizer, right? Because everyone has the same 3 letters. There is no distinction between them. But I think you have to sort of maybe have a deep discussion with yourself about, why did you have a suboptimal GPA? Is it because you were comfortable with just getting by, and you are comfortable with just getting by? Or were you comfortable with just getting by, but you think that that was just, okay, that's not going to work anymore. I need to do more than get by. I need to be the best version of myself that I can be. And if you have decided that, then equalize, do the CFA, equalize, absolutely. But if you say, no, no, I wasn't trying to just get by, that's where I'm at, then I would question whether or not the CFA journey would be something you would want to do. Not because I don't think that you could pass, only because you're going to have to get a job and you're going to have to keep that job. And this is a brutally competitive industry, that you may not have staying power in the industry if that is where you are. But if you felt that, no, no, my potential is way above my output, then you better show your potential, right? Insight on how Bank of Canada will manage to balance full employment and price stability. The last CPI reading, core came in at 0.6, not 0.4. So it's there. On their last meeting, they were on hold, but they did reserve the right to raise rates at some future point. They only have a single mandate. The US has a dual mandate. Bank of Canada has a single mandate, price stability. So, I don't know that if price stability is threatened, if they're going to wring their hands too much about full employment. Let's see. I have multiple DNP. I am working full time and need a new approach. When would you be starting with the seminars? End of May. End of May. I got to get the content up for level 1, 2, and 3 for the new season. I got to finish my requirements there, and then I want to take some time on this one. I don't know exactly what they're all going to look like, but I know they're going to be more discussion based. They're going to be, and I got to find all of the right kind of examples to get it done. So I'll need a few weeks to prepare, but I think if you look at the last video I put up on my channel for level 3, in there, I give you the rough dates over which they will be held. So true. Diversity at firms only creates division. Let me say something about that diversity creating division. When you put diversity first, yes, it creates division. When you put merit first, you will get diversity that will not create division. Diversity doesn't create division. Putting it first and foremost and pointing out everybody's identity creates division. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. If you ignored it, you would get diversity, but in a more meritorious way, without pandering to people. Suspecting people are diversity hires instead of competent peer. Well, that's the danger, right? What's the difference between SOFR and repo rate? It depends on how that's getting done. If it's in the interbank market, which means one bank lends to another bank on a secured rate, the repo rate probably is the SOFR rate, because the underlying is, or the collateral is the treasury, is the same thing, right? But it depends on if you're getting it done in the interbank market or you're getting it done with another counterparty versus, well, the central bank wouldn't do it. They have a different, if you can't get it done in the interbank market, you can go to the central bank, but you pay a higher rate, and they start putting on the glasses and looking at you a little bit more closer, and nobody wants it. How often do you gym? I have a full commercial gym in my basement. The whole basement is, and I don't mean like one of those universal things. I mean like a full commercial gym. Every day. Well, I wouldn't say every day. Some days I don't go down there, only because you need a break every now and then. At least 5 times a week. Do you have any recommendations of a good analyst in the tech space? No, I don't. I'm not aware of analyst names. Let's see. I am a level 1 student. Can I ask a doubt or some other day? No, I'm not here for content, just for level 3 as a whole. We're almost done here. My goal is to become professional retail trader after CFA. Wondering what advantage, disadvantage for retail investors compared to institutional investors or hedge funds. Well, the biggest disadvantage is assets under management. Is you need your own assets. You have to build your own portfolio. Most people think it's the access to information, but it's not. It's not the access to information. I don't find that I'm at a disadvantage because I lack access to information. Most of what they're looking at is available for free anyways. All the economic data is available for free. All the company data is available for free. If you're trading in very specific things, yeah, you're going to have to pay for a data feed, but as a retail trader, you shouldn't be betting on, you shouldn't be trading in these very niche specific markets. So the advantage is speed, how fast you can move. And because you're small, you can take advantage of things that large funds simply can't take advantage of. Large funds would leave footprints, so they must be where there are other big footprints so that they can hide in with the crowd. But they can't play at the same speed and with the same agility that you can, because they would leave footprints and they couldn't play big enough to make a difference in some of the strategies that you could follow. So I find that there's a lot more flexibility as a retail investor, as long as you understand all the tools in the toolbox and when to use them, right? Option course from CSI will help you get a job in finance industry. Well, I this idea of help you get a job in the finance industry. Um, I really don't know. I recognize your name from above, that you are a certain age and you've had difficulty in getting a job. You've got level 2 behind you. I don't know that more uh, textbook learning on your resume is going to make a difference at this point. I don't know that throwing more courses on your resume is going to make a difference. I think you need some real experience at this point, because more of this isn't going to help. Number of attempts is limited to 6 now. Is it applicable for new registrants? For new ones, I think new ones that started in, was it 2020 or 2021? It was new. It was for newer ones. Just want to say thank you for all you do. No problem. How do you build knowledge about a particular sector? You start Google it. You Google it, and you look for quality sources. And one thing will lead on to the next. As you're reading one thing about an industry, you'll notice that it mentions something else. Maybe there's an industry organization, a .org somewhere, where you can get a lot of good information from the .org. Companies in the industry, if you read the 10K, the annual report, a lot of good information about the industry, a lot of good information about competitors, or they'll name their competitors, and then you can go to the competitors' annual reports. Go to investor relations on each of the websites. Investor relations has a whole bunch of good information, and they consolidate a bunch of information for you in presentations, so you can download their presentations, and they'll have like a 10-year history of the growth in their sales, and they'll talk about different markets and different, and it's all just a matter of pieces of the puzzle. Everywhere there's pieces of the puzzle, and you collect pieces of the puzzle, and you just read as much as you can, to the point where when you're reading, it starts to become repetitious, and you just know it. But it is a pathway that you start on, and it lasts. There is no end to that pathway. There is no stop. You're finished. You know everything about this industry, because industries change, they evolve. New competitors come in, old ones leave, and the technology evolves. The economics of the industry evolve. So you always stay with it. Twice close to MPS. Bought your mock for 2023. Would you suggest to get the full access course? Yes, I would. I would. And I'm not saying that in a self-serving way. We have a very accessible price, but I would, because There are some seminars, just if anyone out there has watched any of the seminars, some of the seminars that take a particular topic and they break it, it breaks it down into a lot more detail that after you watch the seminar, the whole, that little section makes a hell of a lot more sense where you think, oh, okay, that makes sense. Plus, if you have the subscription, then you can potentially sign up for the seminars I'm doing, attend the office hours I'm doing, attend the drop-in AM sessions or the structured response sessions I'm doing. You get access to a lot more. Any reason you didn't answer my question? Probably because I didn't see it. FFFFF. Let me scroll back and find a purple F. I don't see a purple F. Probably because I didn't see it. So rather than ask me why I didn't answer, just ask it again, I guess. I noticed you're Matt. Do you plan to have another dog in the near future? Well, one is a doorway mat, which is just because that's the outside door, and that is that was here when I bought the house, believe it or not. That is a place just to put your boots and your shoes on. And that's my employee slippers there. She prefers to walk around the house in slippers, which is fine. I do plan on having another dog in the future. I just don't know when. But yeah, I can't imagine not having a friend around. I just don't know when. At some point. Are you an active or passive investor? Both. I have some positions that I would plan to hold for the next 4 or 5 years. So as I collect more shares of the miners, more shares of the home builders, I don't plan on selling those. I plan to hold those for a long period of time. Same with mortgage REITs. I plan to hold those for a long period of time. I may sell calls against them sometimes, or maybe sell more puts, or maybe create an income factory around one, depending on how it's performing. I don't know, but I plan on holding it for a long time. Then there's a part where I enjoy being active, where I think I can do better than just holding on to something. So I'm kind of both. With the amount of knowledge on financial markets you've accumulated, what made you decide to pursue education as a career as opposed to managing your own fund? Well, I manage my own fund in the sense that I'm the sole investor. So I only have to answer to myself. Why don't I manage assets? That's a whole business. It is a whole business. You need to meet with a whole bunch of financial advisors and say I'm a viable alternative for you. They're going to want so many years of results that you can provide them. And we say, well, I'm just starting out. Well, come back when you have results. That's the catch-22, is how do you get assets under management when you have to rely on the advisors to feed it to you? Unless, of course, you say, well, I'm just going to be hedge fund style and I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to find 5 or 6 key investors of 5 or 10 million each. I'll put in 10 million myself and build from there. And then, just stick with a certain type of investor. I could do that, but the costs to set that up, the reporting that you need, the everything that you need in place to get that done. It's a whole business, and I don't know that I want to have the trades that I do scrutinized to that level, or the decisions that I make scrutinized to that level. And now you have to, especially if you're doing that kind of trading, you have to bend with the wind. So you have to rally when the market's rallying, even if you don't believe it. Even if you say, well, this is a ridiculous rally, too bad. You got to lean into it. You got to lean into it if the market is rallying. You have to. Otherwise, your performance is going to suck. You have to lean into it. I just don't feel like doing that. So, I don't. That's why. Are there any asset bubbles about to pop? Well, I think crypto is still an asset bubble. I really do believe it. I mean, ask yourself, after 10 years, they keep talking about all the things you can do. Well, again, get on with it then. Why am I not seeing it after 10 years? Why am I not seeing applications of it? ChatGPT has just been in the conversation for a couple of months, and you're already hearing about applications of it. Coursera, I think, was it Coursera? No, Chegg. Chegg announced that they were going to use AI to answer student questions. But I mean, it's on very well defined curriculum. There's a big difference. Very well defined curriculum. But I'm seeing applications all the time of where it's going to be used and who's using what. But where's all this crypto stuff? If you're going to do it, get the hell on with it. So I do think it's a bubble, because after 10 years, you telling me you haven't got an application that has found its way into my life somewhere? Like, come on, right? Most important indicator of fundamental knowledge you base on when accessing the direction of the market. Always rates. I start with rates because that forms the discount rate for everything. Where are rates going? That's the big one. And then where is the economy going? Because almost every sector has as its factor, as a major factor, is GDP growth. That if you're not getting growth, then, what are you getting? Where are you going? So there must be, for there to be good upside to the market for multiple years, there must be significant unused capacity in the economy. There is not. Think about an apartment building. You got 20 units. They're all rented. They're all rented at market rent. They're all updated to the latest amenities. So when somebody moves out, there's no point in updating it because you can't get any higher rent and it's fully leased out. Where are you going to go? Where's the growth going to come from? Oh, yes, it's a nice building, but how do I grow? I mean, it's not as if it's 80% occupied and they're outdated apartments. Beautiful. Because I can update the 20% of the other apartments and immediately increase the rent. I can then start moving the other tenants out, called re-tenanting. I can upgrade the apartment and raise the rents. I got a lot of growth. So think about the economy. The economy right now, with 3.5% unemployment, seems to be a fully leased apartment building that's up to date. Where am I going to go from here? Now, if we had 7% unemployment and industrial capacity utilization was running 68 to 70%, and real estate was 75, 80% leased in all categories, I would say there's huge capacity here. And you start seeing that bank credit is starting to increase, not decrease, but bank credit is increasing. Rates are very low and accommodative. That's the beginning of a bull market. We do not have that right now. So I ask, where is growth going to come from when you have 3.5% unemployment? Where is it going to come from? Where's more growth going to come from? Right? So I start with rates. Where's the central bank going to go? What's the cost of capital? What is the upside potential in the economy right now? And, the economy is running below potential only if you don't consider unemployment. But if you consider potential GDP in terms of unemployment, we are at potential, if not above potential right now. So where the hell is growth going to come from? And if it's not, that's, I'm talking to myself. That's the internal conversation I have with myself. But, that's the indicators I look for: growth and the direction of rates. That'll tell me quite a bit. Any advice on how I can switch to equity research? 8 years of experience in accounting and financial analysis, and I'm a charter holder. Then speak up. If your organization doesn't have any equity research, then you need to start looking at companies that are looking for that. Are you able to speak more on what your new employee will be doing for you? It's a combination of things, really. I didn't hire them because of what they have now. I hired them for their pure potential. This person is absolutely impressive, so I hired them for the potential, and then you just mentor them over the years, and you hope that they go on to be something better than what you are. Um, so right now it's a lot of learning, but some good structure to my presentation of whatever marketing. For example, if you go to the site now and you click on applied series, you get the pricing grid. There's the PDF you can download, which so goes through the whole thing, saying here's what we have, here's what we do, here's what's coming this fall, here are the new sections that are going to be added. Um, so it answers a whole bunch of questions all in one document. And it's like, well, I've never had the time to do that, nor do I have the skill to lay it out and make it look good and professionalize it. Well, now it's done. Great. Somebody has questions, I could say, here's a link to the PDF. Let's see, for level 3, how do I decide which topics to get as much depth as I can in terms of understanding? Do you mention that some topics are declarative? So how do I optimize amongst all? Well, you'll know they're declarative as you're going through them. I mean, you're going to know that a lot of it is declarative knowledge. The hedge fund reading, I think, is all declarative knowledge. It's a long one, but I'm just, like there doesn't seem to be anything you have to think about. Same with the equity section. The equity section really doesn't have anything that you have to think too deeply about. It's just a lot of statements. Same with behavioral finance. It's a lot of statements. That's it. I just joined due to time in Asia. My question is, now the CFA acknowledging level 2 pass, could this be a credential? Well, it kind of is. Yeah. Yeah. I failed level 3 twice, thinking of giving up. Yeah, you're not going to give up. Not being this close. Not one exam away. You're one exam away. One exam away. That's all. So no, you're not going to give up. You just have to think differently. Watch the previous video I did on my channel for level 3. Have you always been a high agency individual? I think so. I think when I think about locus of control, there are some people who believe the locus of control is external to them and that they are simply victims of circumstance. That if things don't work out, it's because, well, I don't really have a lot of control over things. I feel that the locus of control is within me. That if things don't work out, it's me. It's not that I'm a victim of circumstance. It's me. Now, sometimes bad luck happens, but for the most part, it's me. And if things work out, it's me. It's because I did things. So yeah, I think I think that's true. Are you primarily Windows, Mac, or all Mac? All Mac. I haven't been Windows since. When was the last time I saw a blue screen? 20 years. Been a long time. Long time. I got a Windows laptop here because it was used by an employee to keep the accounting done. And then we just handed it off to the accountant at the end of the year because the accountant uses Windows. And it's way at the end of the desk. I don't want it too close to anything I own. I don't want it to poison anything that I own. I don't know what to do with it because I no longer need it. It's what do you call this thing? It's a Windows. I don't know. It's this thing here. What do you call these little things? A Surface? A Windows Surface? Look at that. I'm even embarrassed to hold it. I have to wash my hands now. Ugh. Ugh. Windows. That's the only Windows thing that I have, and I'll deal with it at some point. I have a fireplace out back. I may just burn the bloody thing. If recession hits US, you think it will reach Europe? Oh, that's a good question because Europe seems to be recovering, I think, a lot better than the US. And I think Europe has, I think, more upside potential than the US. So that would be interesting. I would say that it's hard to imagine a US recession only. without other countries catching a cold. Just want to say thank you. Passed level 3 in February. Great. Good. Any good carry trade opportunities? U.S. Mexican position. That's about the only one that I can think of right now, but be careful. The Bank of Japan governor said that he can see abandoning yield curve control later in the year. If that happens, the yen is going to move very violently against that carry trade. You'll have to unwind that very quickly. Do you think technical and fundamental analysis can be used together? Or are they in principle very different? I don't. Well, they are different. How useful is technical analysis? Not, in my experience, not useful at all. Not useful at all. Flip a coin, and that is how good technical analysis is. If you say, "Oh, there's a buy indicator," flip a coin, and I guarantee you that over repeated trials, you will find it hard to beat a coin toss. That the coin toss will probably beat you. And that's technical analysis is a coin toss. It's a bloody coin toss. No, I don't think there's anything there at all. That is anything useful at all. It's my opinion. I'm not basing that on fact. It's my opinion. But if we want to call fact into it, and you look at all the academic studies that were done, they overwhelmingly conclude there's nothing here. There's nothing here. Nothing. So that's, sort of my opinion. And that brings us to the end of the questions. 9:21. Timer here is saying 3 hours, 25 minutes. I haven't even had dinner yet. I'm going to have to throw a chicken breast on the barbecue. Can CFA charter be useful for designation? Someone primarily computational finance. I don't know enough about what computational finance would involve, but if it's just algorithmically run programs looking for certain things, you got to know what certain things to look for. So maybe. What is your view on guest who goes on Bloomberg to share their view? Yeah, I have no problem with that. They just share some and mainly try to get client evidence. Well, CNBC has a lot of that, right? For CNBC, there's a lot of the guests that go on that then try to leverage that platform in their own business. I think almost everybody who goes on CNBC has a podcast. I think almost everybody then carries it on off air as well, and they leverage their appearance for that. I don't know if Bloomberg has as much of that, but they do have people on there that it is part of their marketing strategy to be on air. And you can, I can do that too. You can contact CNBC, Fox Business, Bloomberg, and because I've done media before, and you simply just give them your bio and what you're an expert in, and they're always looking for people. They're always looking for content. They're always looking for someone to have on. When I was a professor years ago, I did a lot of that for CBC, both on TV and on radio across the country. It would appear on different channels. Radio was one of those 3-hour windows where every 15 minutes you're on a different radio station, and each one calls you and you have to give an interview. That's usually handled through the PR department at the university. You can continue doing that stuff, but TV and radio, you got to talk in sound bites. Like you can't really get into anything in any depth and talk about, any trade-offs or anything deep. You got to talk in sound bites, and you got to have content on a daily basis. Well, sometimes to have that much content on every single day, at some point you're making stuff up. At some point you're just making stuff up just to have content, right? I did my part years ago. I don't really have any desire to do any of that now. Thoughts on the future of the value premium? I don't think it disappears. I see that size has pretty much disappeared, but that was at a time when, investing in small cap stocks was considered radically reckless and risky. And, it was also at a time when there was no high yield bond market. It was in high yield. If you're not rated investment grade, how could you even consider a bond? And that changed in the 80s. And as more people became aware that there was a premium return to small cap stocks, it became a strategy on its own, to the point where the premiums almost disappeared. Value, I think, stays around. I think the premium for value stays around. But, that's a beautiful thing about the future. It's difficult to forecast. Who knows? One last question. DNP strategy should be solving all your mock exams, your CFA INA chapter questions. Anything else? Again, watch the last video I put up for level 3, and look at all of the support that we provide: the seminar series, the office hours, the live exam drop-ins. Those are the things that I think make a big difference, because we have a back and forth in there. Even though it might be text, there's still this back and forth where I can answer questions. 3.5 hour old coffee, but when you put like a bit of maple syrup in there, it's good cold, right? And I think we're going to end it here, because my voice is starting to get a little sore. It's 9:26. I don't know what markets are doing right now. I'm not on the email list, so no, I didn't get any notice of we're going up, we're going down, we're going up, we're going down. Didn't get any of that. I can see that markets are down 9, or are we June, 9.5 points. But that, here's the thing: you could wake up tomorrow and be up 30 points, or be down 60 points, or be just right here. There used to be information in this, and I'm looking at the currencies right now, so I know I can't trust the futures, because if I could trust the futures, it would show up in currencies. That's a nice lesson. Look at your key currencies, and if they're doing nothing, you can't trust the futures. I trust the currencies more than I trust the futures. Oil is down. Gold is up. Copper's up. It doesn't tell me anything. Oil's down, but copper's up. Again, mixed. Where's our treasuries? Hardly even moving. Nothing to talk about. Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here. Okay, I'm going to go throw a chicken breast on the barbecue and think about my life. That's it for this week. If you have the applied series, for anyone left still on, if you have the applied series, next week there are 2 live sessions that you need to be on the site on markmeldrum.com for, and it's the Vimeo feed that is behind. You have to log in, you have to have a subscription for that, but there are two live feeds to answer any of the questions you may have about the videos on the applied series and what we have there. All right, guys, I'm going to click end stream at the bottom of the screen here in 5, 4, 2, 1.